across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. And can I tell you one thing? Between all of us, between you and me and Asher, I'm in a terrible mood today. And I'll tell you why I'm in a terrible mood. I look at my list of stories we're going to talk about, and I see this. Shamima Begum, 10 years after she left the United Kingdom to join ISIS. And what I really get upset about is that we're worried about this. We care about this woman. We've got all of these human rights lawyers going off on one, defending her, spending millions in legal aid to defend her. And what I worry about is this. You know something? This person has gone over to support terrorism, has harassed the people of the Middle East in the same way that people like Hamas have harassed people in the Middle East. She is a solid gold bad person. But we're worried about her, aren't we? We spend money defending her in court. We fight for her rights. We fight for her liberty. We fight for her rights to live in the United Kingdom. What about the young people who are suffering tonight because they can't afford a decent meal because of inflation? What about the people that have lost their jobs because of net zero? What about people up and down the country who've served in the military, who don't have the equipment, who are called the borrowers by the American army because they don't have any of the things they need? What about the ordinary Jewish people in this country who are terrified about what Hamas has done to Israel? What about the people who can't get a state school place because of the number of migrants who are 35 with beards pretending to be 12 years old? You know something? We're going to debate on this show, and Asher's going to contribute in a minute, and we're going to talk about the 10th anniversary of Shamima Begum leaving to support that evil Islamic State terrorist regime. But I want you to reflect on the following thing. We will watch all of these lawyers in North London fight for her rights, and they'll all say, oh, you've got to support her, because if you support the bad people, it defends your human rights. I don't believe it. I don't believe that bringing this evil woman back to the United Kingdom enhances the situation of poverty in Burnley. I don't believe that the Jewish people that are panicking about anti-Semitism are going to be less worried when Shamima Begum has her rights ensured. I don't believe that those people in Kent who can't get a school place are going to be happy that there are yet more people who have taken the mick out of this country coming back to this country. I think Shamima Begum is a dreadful scumbag, and I think that it's about time that the people in the legal profession who defend her for money, the ambulance chasers, should apologise. Now, Asher, I'm sorry to start so robust, but what do you say?
I mean, you know, she must have got used to it now. She's been there 10 years, so, you know, she's not British for a start, is she? And also, it's not just the legal costs, it's the security costs. She'll have to be watched for 24 hours a day, and that costs millions of pounds as well, over probably a lifetime.
But what about those people dragged into tunnels in the Hamas terror network who are British? Oh, where were Matrix Chambers? Where was Gareth Pearce? Where was Richard Hermer? Where were all these people, the human rights people? What were they doing in terms of going?
And where were they today about the Beavises? You know, the mother and the two children, the baby and the toddler. Where were they? Why has no one come out and talked about that today?
So we managed to file a case at the international.
It's the most horrendous thing you can imagine.
So let me get this right, and we're going to talk to a couple of people about this. So let me get this right. So Palestine signs up to the International Criminal Court. By the way, I would abolish the International Criminal Court. I think it's dreadful. But they sign up, right? And then it's the Israelis that have an arrest warrant. The people literally walking out of the tunnels with these hostages. We're not bothered about that.
And they're having a party with it, bringing their kids and having, you know, hot dogs and you know, juggling and just all dancing and singing, while the coffins of a baby who was 9 months when they're kidnapping a 4-year-old boy and the mother who've been murdered are just paraded in front. They're all celebrating.
I wonder.
Like it's it's sort of the worst thing that you think people can sink like you just could never imagine. Can you sink lower than that, celebrating over a coffin of a and the Red Cross there, taking part in this whole charade. Disgusting. Never visited once when they were alive.
I wonder how many of you who are struggling to pay your fuel bill, how many of you who are struggling to buy school shoes for your children, how many of you who are struggling to pay the rent are sitting safer in your beds in the knowledge that some North London lawyer made £1 million trying to bring Shamima Begum back to sit on the social for 50 years. I just wonder how many of you...
Well, people are staying at home because they're terrified to go out now, because really it's got so dangerous now on the streets in this city and in other major cities.
So what I'm going to say to you is I object to talking about Shamima Begum. She can rot in hell as far as I'm concerned. However, I am legally and contractually required to go through the running order I've been given, so I will do that. And I'm going to talk now.
Andrew's actually with us, isn't it? Is Andrew ready?
So Andrew Drury is a filmmaker who has spent a lot of time with Shamima Begum. Andrew, look, this is a serious show, and I do want to talk to you about this, but can you understand my frustration about the veneration of this scumbag?
Yeah, I do. And if you can imagine, sort of, I met her about 3 years ago, and I'm really frustrated with the story because I was stuck with it. I interviewed her on 6-7 occasions, and during that period of time, I've learned to despise her. I've learned what she is. I've looked in her eyes. Yeah. She is not a nice human being. We do not want her back.
She has like dead eyes, I've noticed. I mean, you spent time with her, but you could tell she was lying. I remember speaking to you before. Yeah. You actually fell for it for a bit, and then you realised it was a load of BS.
Listen, I've been in Syria prior to meeting her. I was in refugee camps, so I was probably a bit soft and a bit caring at that time. And I did feel sorry for her. I mean, I believed all that bull crap about her being online and radicalised. Load of old crap. She was top of the list. She wanted it. She was the leader of the 3 girls to go out her. There's nothing innocent about that girl. And remember, she committed crimes against the Syrian people. She deserves to rot there.
Andrew, obviously Asher has met you before, but I just want to talk to you about a couple of things just to clarify in my mind. So first of all, you've met her. Look, I mean, when I saw her say on the television, I'd be very happy to come back to the United Kingdom. Oh, I'm sure you would, for the council house and all the benefits and whatever. Look, can I just ask you one question? First of all, am I right in saying that her fundamental problem in life is that her terrorist organisation was defeated and she's got nowhere to go as a result?
Let me tell you about her. She didn't try to escape the death cult all the time she was there. The only reason that she got caught or got out is because of bombing in Baghouz. So she's picked up by the SDF, and not one time was she apologetic at all for what she had done. She doesn't care. This woman committed crime against the Syrian people. She was part of the religious police. She sewed suicide vests. This is one scumbag.
But she didn't even pretend, did she, before?
Can I go through some of the things that the political left are saying? Now, this is not me and Asher, this is me reading some things out. Okay, she was a minor when she left. She has never been convicted of any crime in Syria or Iraq or wherever it was that she was.
She was the age of legal responsibility.
So how do you answer those? The grooming allegation?
I'm not really interested. She sought to go. She was a 15-year-old intelligent girl. She was a top student in her school. She knew what those sites were. She looked to go. I don't really care what she thinks. And I don't care if she was groomed. I think that's just a ridiculous statement by everybody.
I now want to ask you another question, which I think is actually more difficult. It's the Sebastian Gorka point, which Nigel Farage was criticised for answering in a fulsome way. What do we do? So, look, I am regulated by Ofcom, as Asher is, and so I can't tell you what I want to do with Shamima Begum. And let's pretend it's because it would take too long to discuss it. But I think we all know what I mean. Right. However, to be fair, the Kurds do not have the death penalty in their territory. She's in a Kurdish prison, and they've said, look, we've got all of these people, these scumbags, we need to do something about them. What are we going to do? How do you answer the Sebastian Gorka comment, which is, we probably do have to take her back on that basis?
Well, firstly, I mean, the reason that he's made that statement is America want to take 2,000 troops out of Syria. And I believe that they should face trial. I mean, they would have faced trial under the Assad regime. I still think they she still could go through the trial process within inside the Kurd court system, which is quite simplistic. Not far from her prison, there is a court, and she could still serve time in Rojava, which is northeast Syria. It was the crime against those people. So I think that she should go through that court process.
Yeah, but the thing is with Seb Gorka is, I wouldn't mind if she was going to the American court system, because she'd end up in Supermax for the rest of her life. But if she gets back to here and faces our court system, she'll probably get found not guilty and get a council house and have to pay £1 million a year security. So they need to take it to American courts if they want to.
I mean, I've spent a lot of time talking to the SDF recently, which is Syrian Defence Forces. They believe that the Americans are pulling out, and if they do, they're going to release all the prisoners anyway. So she's got, I mean...
Well, she can go back to ISIS, because they're sort of ISIS... they are ISIS, really, aren't they? The new government.
I was in Raqqa, and the ISIS flag had been driven out. My friend, who's a fixer inside Syria, said the ISIS flags are back in Raqqa now. So I mean, where do you think she'll go? Would she go left or right?
The thing, Andrew, which I find difficult is this, and maybe it's not your specialist subject, but I'm going to ask you about it anyway. Asher, sits here in this studio, sensible debate, and says, "Do you know something? Fundamentally what he's just said, I don't trust our legal and judicial system to do anything other than venerate her for being I think she'll get the podcast at the BBC. I think I mean, if you look at Mozambique, he's all over the telly. We've given him a big settlement, council house for life, all this sort of thing. And I just sit there and I just think that I just wonder whether you can comment on the fact that we are worried as British people, not about terrorism, but about the failure of our own system to deal with terrorists. And the reason we want Shamima Begum in Kurdish territory, the reason that we disagree with Seb Gorka, is because we don't trust our courts to not hand her a load of money in a financial settlement.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. I don't think the court system would prosecute or anything.
No.
I think you might do a couple of years in prison and be out. And we would lose sight of her anyway.
So we should ask Seb, because he's British anyway. I think he was born in Ealing.
He was.
So, he knows our legal system wouldn't deal with it. So why is he pushing for us to take her?
Well, one thing I'd say about him, what he should do is take his Americans back. Because
I think that's what his point was. He's going to take the Americans back, and
I think it was a matter of duty. But here, look, Andrew, I want to ask you something else about this. So you meet this woman, right? Now, look, you're a serious journalist. You genuinely want to understand the story, and look, you don't go in with any bias one way or the other. What was it that you noticed about her, and how did you notice it?
Several things changed me. She has a phone. You can get give her your phone number, and she texted me about, must have been, I don't know, 500, 600, 700 times. I've still got the messages, and those series of text messages changed my view to her, namely the death of her children. When I was over there at one time, she had her purse with her. She opened the purse and showed me a picture of a 8-9-month-old child with chocolates around its face. So she showed a happy scene. And I generally felt sorry for her. I mean, loss of 3 kids is hard to take. I mean, I lost her brother when I was younger, so I know what child death's like. Yeah. And then I commented on her message that she sent to me. I said, I'm really, really sorry to hear about the death of your children. It made me really sad when you showed me that picture. She said, oh, don't worry about it. I'm over that now. And then how callous is that?
It's a bit like what she said with the heads in the buckets, when she said, oh, it didn't bother me. Do you think she's a bit psychopathic, like doesn't have an empathy, sort of, is actually...
She has no empathy. Yeah. She's a chameleon as well. So every time I went there, she'd tell you what you want to hear. She's clever. Maybe she's been trained. I mean,
she could be like a sociopath, couldn't she? She sounds like...
How do we know she's not an ISIS plant anyway? How do we know that? Because I tell you what...
I think she's pretending in the camp because she's dressing Western. She wouldn't do that if they really would, be her enemy. She's trying to... It's what they call takia in that world.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, those in that prison camp, after visiting it, there's many attempts at killing some of the less radical girls by the ISIS women. So they were in there and they're burning tents, attacking the women. She never once got attacked. Now tell me why. She's the biggest figure in that camp.
Yeah, but also, but do you know, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. But do you know, my final comment is this. Yeah. Why should we be congratulating the bad people like we always do? I went to the grave of some kid that had gone to the Jewish free school. You know, he'd volunteered for the Israeli Defence Force in his holidays before he went to university and was killed. Right, you know what? The kid had run out with a gun to try and be helpful. You know, nobody cares about people like that. Why do we venerate the bad people? Why is Shamima the person? Why isn't it some guy that tried to preach humanitarian things in that area? What frustrates me is we live in a country where the bad people are the first-class citizens and the good people are the second-class citizens.
Well, that's why I've had death threats. You know, the thing about me, about Shamima Begum, that probably the left journalists don't like is I've actually met her. None of them have. I know what she's like. So all the argument about her being radicalised, all those arguments, but it doesn't matter about her radicalisation. It doesn't matter what people think about it. It's what she has as a person.
Yeah, but what they're doing, Andrew, what they're doing is they're saying what proves the humanity, what proves the decency, what proves the morality of the United Kingdom is somebody can behead people in Syria and we'll still be nice to them. I don't think that proves anything in terms of morality and humanity. I think it proves stupidity and evil.
And weakness.
Andrew, thank you.
I 100% agree.
Thanks, Andrew.
Andrew, thank you so much. We could do this all day. Listen, I'm in a bad mood about Shamima. 10 years and we're still talking.
Worse now.
Oh, God, honestly. The pulse is rising. It's going to get big. 0344 499 1000. We'll be back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, I've got to admit one thing. I'm like Kevin O'Sullivan tonight. Every single news story is winding me up more, right? I'm going to explode in a couple of moments. But do you know something? There's a story out today about the way that Uber is using illegal labour. You know, this gig economy where you end up getting...
Uber Eats, to be specific.
Well,
probably, maybe the Uber cabs, you don't know. I mean... Allegedly.
OK, so there are allegations that people taking these jobs are not... getting the proper accreditation. I'll tell you what happens down my street. Officially, legally, in order to be a taxi on my street, you have to be licensed by the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead. But, you know, if you book an Uber, it'll be the London licensing.
Yeah,
you know, see, the system is being broken. What is happening is...
There's loopholes.
Yeah, exactly. OK, so Matt Stevens is an Uber Eats customer who went viral this week, hopefully not because of the food. He went viral because he ordered Uber Eats and he had a mystery man turn up when he was expecting a woman. Now, just to be clear, I've read that out, Matt. When I say you ordered Uber Eats and a woman didn't turn up that you were expecting, it was food that you'd ordered, wasn't it?
Oh, it most certainly was, I can assure you of that.
Okay, fine.
Right, and you specifically wanted it delivered by a woman?
Well, no, on the app, it said to me that a woman would be delivering my food, right?
But you didn't mind?
Of course I didn't mind, no, of course not.
Okay, so right, there's two ways this can go.
So a man comes.
No. Let's do the Andre way, not the Asher way.
Did it have a woman's voice?
No. Okay. So let's not debate.
Stilettos.
Let's not debate the relevance of the female, because that's what he wants to do. Okay. Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say to you, look, you were concerned that the person turning up was not the person licensed by Uber. Asher, I invite you not to comment.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was quite scary for me, and I'm sure it is for women all around the country, because this is happening everywhere. Now, as you say, I expected a woman called Sadia to deliver my food, and what turned up wasn't Sadia. In fact, it wasn't any type of woman. It was a middle-aged man. Now, I posted this on Twitter after getting no reply from Uber after my complaint, and I was astonished. This is happening everywhere.
Well, first of all, I guarantee you in my 20s I went to all sorts of clubs where middle-aged men were dressed as women. But look, on a serious note, look, when you say you were very worried about this, why were you so worried about it? I mean, at the end of the day, somebody's got a business. They're turning up with the food. I mean, you know...
As long as the food's still hot and it's tasty.
Do you know what? I just want to check something. Why bother checking the name of the delivery person, and why care about who turned up?
Okay, so this matters, not necessarily for me, but for women across the country, and particularly in London, where we know we now have 585 illegal immigrants. This matters. In London, there's a rate reported every hour. Women and girls' safety is absolutely paramount in all the political discussion. And if you've got undocumented men turning up on women's doorsteps, that's something of extreme concern.
Yeah, but that didn't happen. What happened was a woman was supposed to deliver it, and it was a bloke.
Yes, it was. It was a bloke.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the story. I just don't get the relevance.
Are you saying that women can look like you can get female taxi drivers for women because they're safer? Are you saying that's what could happen in that case?
The reason this is of such concern is because any Uber driver can appoint, delivery driver rather, can appoint a substitute, right? That substitute goes through no checks whatsoever, so they may not have the right to work.
So, okay, let's get this clear.
Well, a lot of them won't have the right, that's why they're doing that.
And by the way, Matt, I'm with you. Look, I think your argument's fairly thin, but actually, I will say one thing. The general concern about the fact that Uber are not vetting people properly, about the fact that, you know, we all know that there's one guy with a license and, you know, somebody else drives overnight. You know, what should we do about Uber, and what's your interest in Uber?
Well, it's not my interest isn't in Uber here. It's about people's safety, right? Because we know last month we found out there's 585,000 illegal immigrants in London. We've got a rate reported every hour, a phone stolen every 6 minutes. To get these numbers down, we have to get a control on illegal immigration.
But you're not going to do that. The government are in on it. I mean, why do you think the Turkish barbers, which are obviously a lot of them are money laundering operations, and the American candy shops, this is just an addition. This brings in billions to the HMRC. The government are in on it.
Absolutely, and this is why I care about it. You asked me why I care about it, and the reason I care is because it matters that we tackle this. Because if we tackle this, it removes a magnet, it removes an object for people to... Because people know they can work here without any sort of checks. It gives them an absolute reason to come straight across the channel. In you go into the economy, absolutely no checks whatsoever. And we've got to stop being such a pull factor as a country, and this is one of the reasons people come here in such droves. You know, 100,000 since...
Well, they're encouraged. It's sold abroad.
Quite right.
What worries me is this, and look, I genuinely think that you've got a political bent here. I don't have a problem with that, but I just think that the major concern that you've highlighted is right. That actually, you know, fundamentally, what is this business by Uber? Fundamentally, what is this business by all of these low-cost carriers? It's effectively, let's pay people as little as possible in order to cream off the top. You know, my Uber, I stopped using Uber when I go home. I have to leave at 1 o'clock in the morning because, you know, whatever the bill was, it must have been 50% they were taking in fees. The thing is, these people are deliberately subverting the rules in order to make a couple of quid. And then they're saying, we're not a real taxi firm, we just are a marketplace. It's disgraceful, right?
It's astonishing. And is it any wonder, considering, as you say, they only get 50% of the fees sometimes, and as I've mentioned, we've got people working here illegally, Is it any wonder that 1 in 8 18 to 24-year-olds are on out-of-work benefits? Is it any wonder we've got a record benefit bill? No, it's not, because these jobs just do not pay. Work doesn't pay in this country.
And the DHSS does pay a lot. You can just get your own place.
OK, Matt, you've got me. I completely agree with you, but I just want to ask you one question. You're not really bothered about this delivery, are you? Right, you've got a political background, you're interested in Uber or taxi licensing or something. I'm not having a go, but I just don't...
No, he'd ordered a woman and a Big Mac and fries. He was really disappointed when the man came.
Matt, come on, we're talking amongst friends, right? Look, I don't have a problem with this at all, but you ain't telling me that you ordered an Uber Eats, a bird was meant to turn up and a bloke turned up, and then you decided to run a national campaign against Uber as a result.
Look, I didn't run a campaign. All I did was post this. And the reason it matters, I've got 2 young stepsisters who are around my age. And I don't want an undocumented man turning up on their doorstep. I really do care about this. It's a serious issue. People have got to get a grip of it. I don't want my stepsisters going outside, getting a delivery at 1 o'clock in the morning from a man who might not have the right.
Well, I'm gonna give you a good piece of advice. I think this is a genuinely good thing that you've highlighted. I think you were right to take it, put it on Twitter and get it to go viral, because, look, the reality is we are not standing by genuine British workers. We're not standing by people who are doing a good day's work. We're not standing by people who, do not want to work for slavery wages. I genuinely think the fact that a bloke turned up rather than a woman is of no interest, but I genuinely think to have highlighted the issue of Uber being completely unacceptable in their vetting was something you ought to have done, and I congratulate you for doing that.
Thank you very much. And it is an important issue for the reasons you just highlighted. British people are not being put first, and that is the primary reason I highlighted this. Women and girls' safety, British people are not being put first. It's essential that the companies and the government get a grip of this.
Can I ask you another question?
Apparently, Deliveroo have sorted a lot of them out.
Can I ask you another question?
This week.
How hard? Look, I'm a bit older than you. We don't know each other and we haven't spoken in advance, but I'm a little bit older than you. How hard is it now to get a good career when you're competing against so much illegal labour?
Yeah, look, I've got so many friends who have struggled time and again to get these jobs, and we know the reason you can't get these jobs in a lot.
What, they want to be an Uber Eats driver?
Well, I don't, and it's not just.
They should have more ambition.
Oh, I work in politics. You see, I'm trying to change things.
You can't deliver politics.
Well, you can't, but you can deliver change. And
no
that's
one
what
can
I'm
at the moment.
Well, quite right. But this matters, as I've said, and ultimately, we've got 1 in 8 18 to 24-year-olds on out-of-work benefits, and this is just one of the reasons why. There's got to be a reason for people to go to work, and there just isn't.
But they wouldn't take those jobs, that youth, would they? Generation, they wouldn't take it.
Well, look, there are many people who would take this if work paid. Really? That's why the income tax threshold needs to be raised from 12,500 to 20,000.
I agree.
That's really
can I ask you the most important question of them all? How can we get young people like you? Look, you're an articulate bloke. You're a decent guy. How can we get people to care about the fact that they're not going to get the house, they're not going to get the job, they're not going to get the career, they're going to be taxed to death and then called racist because they're white when they're thrown out of a job in favour of somebody on the basis of their ethnicity? How do we get people to care about this?
We get people to care about it by having people in politics who can understand them and articulate and get in touch with them. And that's why politics is so important, and that's why it's important that decent people do get in touch and involved with politics. Because without decent people, politics is nothing. And without decent people, people don't care about politics. People don't get interested. And all of young people's concerns get completely ignored. We've got a housing crisis. Work doesn't pay for so many people. And why? Because young people are ignored time and time and time and time again.
Well, I want you to run for office. Thank you so much. That's Matt Stevens, who I do not believe for 1 second was just a random Uber customer. However, I think he makes a really important point, and I appreciate him coming on. OK, we've got Khalid in Leicester. Khalid, you're on talk.
Hi, Andrew. Okay. Hello.
Hello, Khalid.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Let's dispense with that and just talk.
Yeah. Okay. No, you're talking about Shamima Begum earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
Would you want her as a neighbour?
The thing is, she was 15 years old. First of all, we have the law here in the sense that, look, I believe she should be brought back and she should be investigated for whatever crime that she may have committed.
But what about the fact she committed no crime in the United Kingdom?
Yeah, but the thing is, she was a 15-year-old first of all when she left. So secondly, the thing is, whatever crimes have been committed, she has to be investigated. The thing is, we have a law for that, and she's a UK British national.
We know she joined ISIS. She's not British anymore. They took it off legally, but we know she joined ISIS, and she said she was there with a boyfriend who was one of the ISIS operatives, and she sort of.
But Khalid, can I pull you up on this? Why are we not arguing about how hard it is for your niece and nephews or your children or your cousins to get a job in the United Kingdom? Why are we not worried about poor school standards? Why are we not worried about the NHS? Why care about this absolute nightmare? I personally think she should rot in hell. And it galls me that we're spending all this money on getting her back to the UK. I'd rather give your kids a decent university education.
No, the thing is, look, at the end of the day, she was a British national. And the thing is, I believe it's our responsibility to put her through the courts if she's committed a crime. But the thing is, look, Andre, we have to have one rule across the board. The thing is...
No, we didn't bring Jihadi John back and put him in court. We just, blew him up with a drone.
The thing is, we got UK British...
Like her friends, that's what happened to her friends, actually, that she went out with.
But Khalid, can I ask you this question? And maybe this is the wrong question to ask you. Why has it become... a Muslim versus Christian issue? Why is it that I see people who campaign for Shamima, who I believe are all Muslim? I just don't get why any British person of any religion thinks that she is a cause worth fighting for.
It's not a matter of fighting for Shamima Begum. It's a matter of consistency in application of law. The thing is, we got UK British nationals going across to Gaza.
Yeah, but hang on a second. But Khalid, when we talk about criminality, when some white Christian kid goes off and takes drugs in Bali and gets thrown in prison, we don't have high court actions and £1 million worth of lawyers to try and bring them back. Okay, her criminality is she's a terrorist, but there are thousands of young people who commit crime outside the United Kingdom who are British nationals. Somebody who, as an example, smuggles drugs or whatever. Yeah. And by the way, I would rather you smuggled drugs than beheaded somebody, but somebody who smuggles drugs in Thailand. We don't have Keir Starmer and Richard Hermer and the whole 50 of these lawyers going in for £2 million. I mean, she has committed the worst crimes possible because she's a terrorist, and suddenly she's got a special right. What is that special right?
No, but the thing is, Andre, look, you got to hear me out. My point is, we've got UK British nationals going over to Gaza, going over to the West Bank, committing more crimes and recording their more crimes, posting them online, and then coming back to the UK and slipping back, without any investigation. And they should be brought to. The book should be thrown at them. They should be investigated.
Well, okay. I'll tell you what I will say. Khalid, I genuinely agree with you. If there's an allegation against British nationals, whether they be Israeli or Palestinian, for committing any sort of war crime, any crime at all in the Middle East, yes, they should be investigated. I do accept that, Khalid. However, I will say one thing in defence of this. You're saying, and this is what you said, people are slipping back to the United Kingdom. If war criminals have slipped back to the United Kingdom, then we should investigate this. But conversely, somebody who we know we don't want to slip back in should not be allowed to slip in.
I think everybody should be investigated, Andre. I don't think.
No, but Khalid, what you're specifically talking about was people who got in without being noticed. That is the definition of slipped in.
And she committed the crime abroad. The Syrians might deal with them herself.
So is the UK British nationals going over there. They're committing their crimes abroad. But
no, Khalid, you're not seeing my point. My point is, you said, what about people slipping into the UK? I.e., slipping in, the definition of that is people we have not noticed at the border. So if somebody has slipped into the UK who's committed a war crime, yes, they should be investigated. But that's not an argument for somebody we know is a terrorist coming in voluntarily, and we agree to all of it.
No, I don't agree with you, Andre. I think every single person, Every single person who's been to Gaza, who's been to the West Bank, should be investigated, regardless.
Well, can I tell you something, Khalid? We don't disagree on that.
Well, I mean, you're talking about IDF people who are in the IDF.
There is no harm in having a fulsome investigation into people, and I believe that those people who've behaved badly should be prosecuted, and those who haven't.
There has been no evidence of that.
Well, correct. So there's no worry with the investigation. But this is a different situation. This is somebody we know to be a terrorist who wants to come to the UK. If somebody's got through the border...
And was an enemy of the UK, this terrorist organisation. And a danger, an imminent danger.
Khalid, anyway, can I tell you my issue, Khalid? First of all, Khalid, I've got a lot of time. I've got a lot of time for what you've said. But the difference is that if I knew that anybody was a war criminal or a terrorist, I wouldn't want them to come to the UK. It's not an argument for bringing Shamima back just because we don't like some people in the Israeli Defence Force. I'll give you the final word because we're over on the break.
Yeah, because look, the thing is, the ICC, the ICJ, they're investigating Israel for committing war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide.
They said there's nothing to see here. The IDF can carry on prosecuting the war.
No, we're over the break. Khalid, finish your point. No, we have to let Khalid finish his point and go to the break.
We're in trouble. I think application of law, application of international law should be across the board. We can't pick and choose, because this...
Just repeating yourself.
These people, no, it's not about repeating myself. Ash. The thing is, you cannot just pick and choose who you want. If you want,
We've got to go.
Stop, Khalid. We're over the break. Thank you so much for calling. We'll be back in a mo.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, yes, this is Talk. And I've got to be honest, look, I think Khalid is absolutely superb and a great caller. But my issue is this, Asher, and I want to ask you this question. Why is she the person we fight for? Why do we care about...
It's the same with all these human rights lawyers that Keir Starmer, the firm, they always represent those sort of people. Look at the Jerry Adams ones, and it's all... I mean, look at the lawyer with the Chagos Islands fighting against this country and planting a flag of Mauritius in the Chagos Islands.
I mean, what upsets...
And laughing about it.
What upsets me, so if somebody wants to say to me, I don't like the behaviour of the Israeli Defence Force, we should investigate. Okay,
they're the best behaved army in the world, aren't they? They have to be.
Yeah, but I don't have a problem with the investigation. What upsets me is that we are saying that you can compare investigating somebody who served in a genuine military, a genuine military...
Well, that's their game, isn't it? They did it with the hostages. They say, you've got our hostages in prison. No, they're terrorists that they've got in prison, not 9-month-old babies.
I will tell you...
And the BBC did that. They called the prisoners hostages and the hostages prisoners.
I will tell every single person watching and listening to this, I just don't think we should have spent £2 million defending the rights of Shamima Begum. I think she could take a hike. Obviously, by the way, hey, Asha, you'll love this. I won't read the email I've received from the management about what I can say and what I can't say about Shamima Begum, but I'll summarise what I'm allowed to say. I believe that there should have been a fulsome investigation of Shamima, and I believe that the British government should have supported local prosecutors in their actions. And I also pointed out that terrorist offences are a capital offence in Syria. Therefore, if you're a terrorist, you suffer the death penalty. Now, I'm not allowed contractually to put all those things together.
You better not say all that.
I won't
it's
say.
It's the same in Bangladesh. They execute terrorists. So that was their other citizenship.
I won't say that. So, look, we've had this situation with Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky, and indeed these negotiations in Saudi Arabia. We've got a special guest tonight who is Alistair Chambers. He is somebody who's been a humanitarian aid worker in Ukraine. He's come on multiple times, and he is, somebody who's got a knowledge of what goes on in that country. Also, Jess Gill, who we will come to in a moment. So, look, Alistair, you're one of these people who just streamed across the border in order to help people when that war began. What do you think about this idea that Donald Trump has got of effectively ceding part of Ukraine to Russia?
He did make the promise that he'd end the war in a day, which he hasn't done, so I think he's getting desperate. First of all, he took sides with Zelensky, and he made it clear his position against Putin, said he's going to put the hardest and toughest sanctions on Russia that have ever been placed on them. Obviously, his discussion and phone call with Putin obviously didn't go the way he wanted it to do. So I think now he's putting the pressure as a backup plan on Zelensky, hoping he'll fold, with the threat of pulling out aid and support of America against Zelensky.
What happens? So look, you're a local councillor and a businessman, so obviously, you're not an international affairs expert, but you've been on the ground and understand certain things. Why shouldn't I say, well, Vladimir Putin's conquered this area, let's just let him have it and move on?
In my opinion, I think that wouldn't be the right thing to do. I think that the real threat should be from the UK and the States saying we're going to put boots on ground. If you don't return the relinquish of the land and pass it back to Ukraine, that this is what we're going to do, and we're going to bring it into NATO. That's not going to happen, unfortunately.
We haven't got enough boots. Well, we've got boots. We haven't got men and women.
With the US and NATO and the whole shebang, I think we'll be fine. But on that basis, no one wants to spill British and American blood on the soil of Ukraine, unfortunately. They don't mind throwing a few missiles over there to get them to shout.
But isn't there not an argument? So look, I did a tiny bit in Ukraine. You have done a huge amount. But I personally just feel like basically Ukraine has won, haven't they? OK, they've lost territory, but they've retained Kiev, they've retained Odessa. Vladimir Putin, if he keeps the Donbass, is going to have a big military parade, victory parade in Moscow, but it's going to be bollocks, isn't it? And
it's a walk-off ramp, isn't it?
I just feel like, even though I'm somebody who supports Ukraine, I know that you've never been to Ukraine before, but now you have a great love for the country. I just feel like we've achieved as much as we're going to achieve.
Well, you saw it in the first few weeks of Ukraine when I visited with you, the amount of people coming over, the worry, the upset, the babies being held, people coming over with a bag full of belongings just trying to get away from the Russian invasion. And you saw the devastation and the pain caused. I think we were one of the first British people to venture into Ukraine from England with the first lorry. But some of the scenes I've seen are war crime scenes. As you know, Andre, obviously I can't disclose on here, but I'm part of a war crime tribunal against Putin, where I've had to testify and give a witness statement where one of the vehicles we had, a military vehicle, got attacked by the Russians, and the French journalist.
So obviously we can't
killed.
Prejudice the criminal investigation.
No,
but
we
made
can't.
Do you know what I think the saddest moment that we had? So first of all, forget Walter Mitty. We didn't have a clue what we were doing, and effectively we're commanders of some sort of war or whatever. And people go, "Oh, I did this." I mean, we didn't have any idea what we're doing. But I think the saddest moment, on reflection, was the woman with the young girls who said to us, "I genuinely don't believe this man is a humanitarian aid worker. I believe I'm being kidnapped." And we had to reassure her because there wasn't the time to vet the people. And the Ukrainian said to me, at that border crossing, every single sex offender, every single paedophile in Europe has turned up to pick people up. But we don't have the time to do anything. So our job is to reassure her and stick her in a car because we can't leave her freezing at the border. And I just remember that person and just thinking about the number of people who had been sold into slavery as a result of that incredible exodus of refugees.
Yeah, that is always the risk, unfortunately. You're always going to get predators in those situations, like you did with Jimmy Savile, the paedophile, preying on young people with charity. But given the fact we visited the people that had fled, we visited the hostile conditions, we visited a variety of different locations. But can you remember that complex we visited with the children and the mothers in there and they're feeding them? Yeah, that was a safe sanctuary for people, and that's where we're helping. That's where we gave our supplies to, and it's important to make sure you go to these places that are run by the Red Cross and other organisations that you know are bona fide.
But what gets me, Alistair, is this: I was debating on BBC Radio Scotland this morning. Nothing wrong with that, but you know they're sat there talking about an invasion of the Donbass, going back to the pre-2014 borders, you know, and they're talking about Volodymyr Zelensky as if butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. And I personally think that, I genuinely believe that you, but not me, you and your mates prevented a genocide. Now, I admit there were thousands of other people like you, but I just feel like we have to draw a line in the sand, literally and figuratively. And whatever people say about Donald Trump, yeah, he's a bit of a nightmare, but the reality is there will be no reinvasion of Crimea and the Donbass.
So, being in Ukraine recently, just over Christmas just gone, month or two ago, the taste for the Ukrainians and the war has diminished, unfortunately. They just want the war to stop.
They've lost all their top professional soldiers.
They've lost their top soldiers. There's people actually being rounded up on the streets. And I think the time's come to the point where they said, look, all the Ukrainians that didn't want to live there have gone. All you've got left there is Russian sympathisers. Let's just draw literally that line in the sand at the Dnipro River, and let's just give that to Russia now. And hopefully when Putin's gone, there'd be some sanctions, some discussions, we could take that.
Do they believe in their leader, though? Aren't they? The only thing is corrupt. 100 billion's gone missing, and you know it's meant to be a more corrupt country than Russia. And so to get to president, there's got to be a bit of corruption, hasn't there? So isn't it just oligarchs fighting oligarchs to take control, basically, and using a nationalistic argument for the poor as pawns?
I don't buy that, Asher. Can I tell you why I don't buy that? That all former Soviet republics that are corrupt. What we're talking about here is how much do you defend from an invasion and a genocide?
I'm kind of in the middle. There is always going to be oligarchs that are going to try and use their position. They might be brokering deals with Putin, and they might be spending money, passing their money over to Russia to safeguard their interests in Ukraine. There's going to be other oligarchs that I know of that have got interests in Ukraine, that are Ukrainian.
It's full of lithium, and it's the breadbasket
and they don't want their lithium. They don't want their lithium mines taken. So as a result, these oligarchs were given the military money, and that military was passed on to us to take vehicles over.
Do you know something, Alistair? We're going to go to the break, but I remember another touching moment for me, a shocking moment. So effectively, you were taking these big Arctic lorries, breaking up 40 tons of aid and moving it in small vehicles over the border, right? So the vehicles, the trucks did not know where the warehouse would be until 6 o'clock in the morning when you opened them up. And I remember somebody saying to me, these are our guys who take the aid over. These are phenomenal. These are the A team. You know, they're basically older men.
They did have a van.
Like local councillors, and they're going through back roads to deliver the aid. And then we went to somebody else who had an older vehicle, and he said through an interpreter, they've not given me enough fuel to come back. I don't understand why I have to rendezvous with a petrol station on the front line. It would make more sense to fill up my jerry can. And I said, don't worry, and you said, don't worry. And then we walked off and they said, there's a B team as well. His job was to die. His job was to drive in to the machine gun fire whilst the other guys put the aid over the border. And you just think about the sadness of looking at this guy. Why doesn't he have a full tank of fuel? Because he's not going to need it. And it's things like that do make me emotional because, you know, Vladimir Putin, whatever you say, has violated that country in a disgusting way.
He has.
Well, the horrible rapes.
One of the vehicles we had was clearly with Red Crosses on it. It was clearly medical vehicle. and I think it's a Russian BMP. Literally shot straight through the windscreen of the vehicle, knowing that it had civilians in it that had been evacuated from Severodonetsk area in the Donbass, which is now currently Russian occupied.
So there is an allegation, we'll go to a break now, but there is an allegation that a vehicle you supplied was deliberately targeted in order to kill a French journalist. We won't go any further than that because obviously it is an ongoing court case and you've made a statement. We're going to take your calls, 0344 499 1000. Also, we're going to talk to Jess Gill. That got heavy, didn't it?
She's been in hospital,
no,
but we'll
honestly,
find out anyway.
Honestly, that got heavy. That got... I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to cheer ourselves up straight after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, I'm wholly convinced the producers want me fired because, first of all, I got banned from talking about Shamima Begum, and then they forced
Second
me.
of all, they've told you that as well, anyway.
But then, right, I made the following joke that I got into trouble with from the company, and it was this.
Don't say it again.
Well, it doesn't matter now because we're going to debate it now. Donald Trump has been arrested in Mar-a-Lago at the time because he was allegedly holding confidential material. The material specifically related to a G7 leader who had left his wife and was living with his gay partner in a separate flat. And I said at the time, Asher, I'm not going to tell you who that is because of privacy laws in France, right? Now I got into trouble for saying that, okay? Right? Now we've got a debate, literally, about a new documentary that says Emmanuel Macron's wife is a man. Jess Gill, can you just talk so I don't get fired? Just say anything you want. You know, have you got any thoughts on anything?
Yeah, I don't know what to say about this at all.
Neither do I. But just keep talking because you've got 3 minutes.
What is it with politicians, especially leaders, and having supposedly transgender...
Oh, your microphone's not working.
Is it plugged in? Have you plugged it in?
Okay.
Garçon!
Alistair, you've got 3 minutes. Just don't say anything that gets us off air. Any thoughts on Emmanuel Macron in general?
Emmanuel Macron's married to Brigitte, I think is the name, and I think that was his drama teacher that's 24 years older than him. Yep. So, given that case, I think that was a form of grooming when he was at school by his drama teacher.
Interesting, yeah.
So, ultimately, that's grooming.
But who's grooming who?
The 24-year-old,
Franklin,
24 years older drama teacher.
Actually, it is true to say that she'd be in trouble in the UK. I've got a joke about Emmanuel
France,
Macron.
It's a whole different world.
And that was my opinion, by the way.
Okay, I've got a joke about Emmanuel Macron. What is the similarity between Emmanuel Macron and Father Christmas? They've both got an old white beard.
Which means a gay man, doesn't it? So that's what this documentary allegates.
Actually, Asher, do me a favour. You have a discussion about.
Well, I
Bridget being
saw a
man.
video on Twitter
Oh,
yesterday, and they said, "Look, this is a man sitting down," and it did look like a man sitting down. And you know, have you heard the rumours? I mean, this is just someone's on Twitter about Obama. You know, there's even that one. So it goes around a lot. But is there any evidence for this? Have you looked into it, either of you?
Have you looked into it
in depth?
I truly believe that it's not a man. That's my opinion. I think it's just an older lady that, you know, you get more testosterone when you're older. And I think maybe she's
just become manly.
She's just become manly.
Well, also they have that hormone replacement therapy.
Maybe she hasn't had it and they accidentally swapped it with testosterone.
Do you know what? On an actual serious point, I think I don't know Emmanuel Macron, obviously, and I don't know anything about him, so I don't want to make any allegations, Jess. But the suggestion is this: that he is a highly talented man who, would be unable to admit he was gay and become president of the French Republic. Do you think that we ask too much of our politicians in terms of their private life? Help me out, love.
Edward Heath, do you remember that?
No, just say something. We've got 2 minutes.
We just want to test your mic out.
No, don't.
Anyway.
Just say.
I'm going to have another asthma attack after this, but...
Yeah, Jess has just been in hospital.
Yeah, I've just been in hospital. But no, what is it with politicians being corrupt with all these crazy sex scandals? I don't know, I just feel like...
And the shapes of their families.
Yeah.
It's not a sex scandal, it's an old bag, if I'm being honest,
Well,
right?
we don't know.
I thought these people were so pro-trans positivity anyway. Shouldn't this score him brownie
She's not a man, right?
No, because she hasn't come out and been honest about it.
We can't have a conversation on a serious radio station about the first woman of France being a man. She's not a man.
Is she the first man of France, then?
The allegation is not he's married to a man. The allegation is she's a woman and he doesn't live with her.
It's a bit like the Crankies, isn't it? Remember the Crankies? Fan Dabby Dozy? Because the little boy was a boy, but the man was a woman with the curly hair. It's interesting. We never found out until the 90s.
I'm going to tell you one thing.
And she fell out he fell out the beanstalk.
Jess, I begged them not to put this on the list of stories to discuss because I knew what Asher would do. I mean, she's not a man, right? Michelle Obama, is she a man? No.
Prove it.
How do you know if she's a man or not, though? How do you know?
You've seen a big lump, and the way she sits down, or he sits down, and there's a big lump in there. Because he's wearing his satin like MC Hammer trousers.
Do you know
you can't touch this.
Do you truly believe Bridget is a man?
I don't. I've seen the video. That's only a man sits down the way.
Do you know something?
That's only a man sits down.
I have a postgraduate from the University of London, grade distinction, and I'm talking about the way Michelle Obama sits down and discussing whether potentially she has a knob. It is just ridiculous. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to ask Asher to stop talking for a minute. We're going to give out the number 0344 499 1000. No, to be fair, we did want to have a bit of a laugh because it got a bit heavy earlier. You can call the show. Please do contact us. I'll let Asher talk in a moment.
0344 499 1000. We're going to find
Virtual Ash
at Andre JP Walker. We'll find out about Jess. She's never had asthma before. Suddenly ends up in hospital with asthma attacks. We're going to find out how that can happen because it could happen to you. It can happen to Jess. She's a very fit woman, very fit, but yet she was spent 5 days in hospital.
All to do with diesel vehicles. Save the polar bears, kill kids
particulates
with particulates. Back in a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the press preview with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and our guest co-hosts today are Alistair Chambers. He's a humanitarian aid worker who's worked in Ukraine, and Jess Gill, who is a political commentator. So what have you got first, Asher?
Well, we've got the Daily Telegraph. Trans doctors given clean records. So Streeting urges GMC to close loophole that raises complaints after gender change. You just change your gender and you lose all the record of your complaints, which is ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, Jess, what do you think about that?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. As somebody who's just been in hospital as well.
Did you see anything, you know, woke in the hospitals?
No, actually, surprisingly. But I can tell during that time where you're in your most urgent need for help, you want to be comfortable and you want to make sure that the person there has got a clean record, and you want to be making sure that the person there is of mental stability, which I would argue that people who identify as the opposite gender aren't.
Well, yeah, because people used to change your name for criminal records, and it used to work, but it's a ridiculous loophole.
But this is actually about what level of criminality, and I believe this is going to be a big debate, Jess. What level of criminality, giving puberty blockers to teenagers, amputating the genitals of the mentally ill, getting people, to have silicone implants and all these sorts of things when they're just confused about their life. At what point does the doctor get prosecuted for castrating a 14-year-old?
Well, right now we're celebrating them, aren't we? And it's the same within institutions as well, like schools, they're constantly pushing it. When I was at school...
They're brainwashing.
They are brainwashing. They were encouraging this stuff. Same with self-harm. Before the transgender stuff, it was self-harm. When I went to the doctors saying that I was depressed, and like, as most teenagers are, it isn't that deep, they were saying, are you self-harming? It's okay if you are. So, no, it's not okay if I am. Why
they
are you
sort of try and
that?
make you answer the way they want you to answer, don't they?
But hang on a second. Look,
like
I'm 1,000 years old compared to you. But you said something just a second ago. Maybe you just accidentally spoke. You said, when I was at school, and in reference
that was last year, wasn't it?
in reference to the trans thing. I've been told by friends of mine, and I might be completely wrong on this, I've been told by friends of mine that some young people feel a degree of pressure to become trans. When you said, when I was at school this, so I will tell you, when Asher was at school, when Alistair was at school, when I was at school, we just did our sums and that was it. What happens now in terms of pressure from teachers in terms of social issues?
I don't think it's really pressure from teachers, although you have one of those like physical, social health days where you talk about like gender and that kind of stuff. But generally, the nerdy kids, the ones who get bullied, the unpopular ones, instead of just becoming emos, which were like the millennial era, they're now becoming trans.
It's a youth culture, and you get like 7 or 8 girls in the class, and it's obviously, when you compare it to, it's obviously just a made-up thing, and the doctors are sort of in on it, but because they're all working together and they say, we know more than you, they actually are causing...
And you can't question it as well.
And these hormones and amputations will sterilise them, they'll lose sexual function, it's irreversible, and it can cause cancer, the chemicals and other things can happen. So Andre's right, maybe they will be court. Do you think there'll be court cases in the future?
I don't know, I don't
Probably
think
not.
I think 100% there's going to be a massive court cases. There'll be one-off court cases.
But Trump hasn't done that in America. He's banned DEI from everywhere, but he hasn't said now we're going to start arresting people.
Everyone loves suing the NHS, and that's just where they hemorrhage money. If you look at how many millions and billions they lose through people suing them, this is probably going to cripple the NHS
people
in 10
who've
years'
said,
time.
There's a lot of trans people who said they were trans, and now years later they've said no, they weren't, and you can't reverse it. So there's many of those. So they obviously were wrong. So surely they should have a case to sue them.
Maybe we can ask Bridget Macron and see if she's.
Alistair, let me ask you this, because this is the thing that shocked me more than anything else. Look, there's a reason why a baker's son is a baker. Right, there's a reason why the candlestick maker's son is a candlestick maker. There's a reason why there are things passed down from generation to generation. You've brought up your children in the best way that you can, right? Other people will do it differently, but you've done it in the best way that you can. What worries me more than anything else is this. this human rights for children, which means that if one of your kids said, I want to be trans, but I'm nervous my dad will not agree with it, you will not be told. Now, I remember, and Alistair's going to laugh now, I remember when I was a teenager, you remember when you were a teenager, we were idiots, right? Teenage boys are knobs, full-on idiots.
Completely agree.
But your mum and dad look after you.
When does that stop, though?
Yeah, well, exactly. But what annoys me is you are there to look at these kids and say, well, I was like that when I was 14. I care for you so much that I will do whatever it takes to get you into the right place. If you are cut out the deal by the school, that's going to cause real problems, isn't it?
At the age of 14, I never ever thought of having my penis chopped off and turned into a vagina.
Well, it might have been better if you did, if I'm being
It's
told.
not a vagina, is it? It's not a vagina.
Well,
it's a wound, isn't it? It's an open, permanent wound.
Exactly that. Sorry. So I never thought of having my penis chopped
That's
off and
offensive to
turned into a wound.
vaginas.
But Alistair, you're making a joke about it. But on a serious note, they are talking about parents like you not having the ability to know what your own children are doing in terms of gender reassignment.
I saw a mother talking about a child, and I think the child was 8, and she was looking into having a sex change for her 8-year-old because she believed they're adamant that they want to change sex. Like, I mean,
shouldn't you? But I think
that's
these
criminal.
That's criminal, isn't it?
That's
but these
criminal.
days, there's a lot. You see it with actors, they're promoting it, and they want their kid almost to be trans. Like, absolutely fabulous. Do you remember that? She always wanted her kid to be gay, and it's become now that the trans has become.
Ultimately, it's shown as a weakness of the West. And if you look at Russian programs and Russian propaganda, you'll see that they literally humiliate us over it. There's even adverts of people going to America. I don't know if you've seen it on the plane, and there's something that's transgender in the toilet and all this sort of stuff. They literally ridicule us over it.
Well, they say the woke West is destroying itself, like Sun Tzu, The Art of War. If your enemy's making a mistake, don't stop them doing it. And they're saying, look, the West, China and Russia are saying, look, they're destroying
Just
themselves.
leave them to it.
Leave them to it.
Jess,
they're right.
It is true.
Jess, look, I think everybody in this studio agrees, and most of the viewers and listeners agree on this. What do we do about these very, very nice tax-paying people who genuinely believe that they are women trapped in a man's body? At the end of the day, I don't want to. I've got a good friend of mine who is quote unquote trans. I don't want to be rude to this person. And do you know what he said to me? He said, "You've got to accept me for who I am." Well, to be fair, I mean, you've not accepted yourself because you've just had your genitals amputated, right?
Yeah, I do have a lot of sympathy for these people. I mean, it can't be nice, waking up every day, looking in the mirror and not being happy with what you are. I think.
Oh, well, come on, I've been doing that my entire life. I mean,
in the 80s and 90s, when you'd be out in Birmingham, there'd be trans people. I don't know if they were mainly transvestites, but you could have been transsexual, and no one cared. They'd go in the men's toilets, and you'd see them in a dress with a urinal, but no one cared that if they wanted to be as a woman, that's fine. But they don't have to, do actual biological and physical and legal things.
We're gonna go for a break in a second, but my favourite thing, I just flicked onto the BBC one day, and somebody was sat there going, "I know having a penis doesn't make me any less of a woman." I thought it does a bit, if I'm being honest. Okay, we'll be back after the break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is The Late Show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould, Alistair Chambers, who is a humanitarian aid worker who's worked in Ukraine, and Jess Gill, who is a political commentator. Now, listen, I'm in trouble because we've only got through one paper.
I know. Well, don't forget Mike Graham after the news. There he is with his croissant and cranberries. Very healthy diet.
15 croissants.
Well, yeah, and 2 cranberries. Hounded to her death. Army comes under the spotlight at Inquest. Gunner took her own life after boss bombarded her with 4,600 texts. Officer sexually assaulted her but faced no serious punishment. And do you remember when they were? Do you remember the barracks where there was
Deep cut.
Deep cut. I think it was 5 or 6, and they never got to the bottom of that, did they? And there is still maybe bullying in the army, and if people got away with a serious sexual assault, that's terrible.
So I've got 2 views on this, Jess, which is this. I'm very, very nervous about human rights lawyers intervening in military training. The reason is I've met sergeants in the military. I couldn't do the job that they do. Their job is to bring back their soldiers alive. So the reason they're screaming at these kids is because they're terrified about not bringing them back. On the other hand, this girl did receive 4,600 text messages.
She was sexually assaulted by an officer.
How do we balance that? Because my worry is that this poor girl is dead, but at the same time, the end result is going to be that we won't properly train our soldiers because of concerns about their, human rights against bullying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is an absolute tragedy, but I think it's something that is going to be exploited, as you mentioned. I mean, I have a lot of friends, a lot of young male friends, who have found purpose in life by joining the army, by joining the military, and to have that laddish culture that you don't really get in other aspects of society.
A lot of women join and get a lot of problems, don't they, when they're in the army?
I actually don't know any women who have joined the army.
There are quite a few in there, yeah. I mean, obviously there's this.
Well, I think what you're driving at is that it's just a manly culture, and we shouldn't diminish that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the way lads speak, I'm not under any impression it's otherwise, but it is kind of crude, it is kind of harsh at times. And I think depriving men of that space is quite a negative thing. Of course, you need to balance it out, and if there are abuses of power, that's also a negative thing.
Should they be kept separate, do you think, from the men?
I think that would just cause more logistical issues, but I think there should be things in place.
I mean, I think, Alistair, there is a point about the male versus female culture, which is, I don't know what you were like when you were younger, but you take the mick out your mates, you'd give them a shove into the whatever, and at a sleepover, be careful because somebody's going to lose an eyebrow, and then when women call that bullying, that was not bullying for me when I was younger. That was blokes expressing their affection for each other in quite a weird way, but that's what we did.
Yeah, boys can be boys, like we were talking earlier. We're prats till the age of 16, some still prats. But this is, I think, it's a very, very different situation.
This is sexual assault.
This is sexual assault and it's harassment. 4,600 texts in 2 months. Another battery sergeant placed his hands and sexually assaulted her. This poor girl,
and faced no serious punishment.
This poor girl's been let down by the system completely. That's far beyond bullying, and I think justice needs to be served, and no apology will cut it.
But Alistair, what about the people who are going to be listening to this show going, look, at the end of the day, fighting's a man's job?
There's definitely places in there for women,
There was a tank battalion, by the way, there was a tank battalion in Israel on October the 7th. It was just women in it, and they actually rescued a whole kibbutz on their own. So women have, and this was all, and maybe that's the way forward, because they were just it was just all women tank battalion.
Wait, can we just stop for a second? I love Asher Gould to bits, but where I just said maybe women shouldn't be in the military, and he cited, without being rude, he cited the example of success of females in the military, October the 7th in Israel, one of the worst military disasters.
No, but they rescued a whole kibbutz.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they killed all the terrorists there and they sorted it out. And there were men actually there, but it was this woman tank battalion there.
Keep in mind that men and women are women, and there are differences. And I think women can play an important part in the military, but we need to address that there are women there. And also, I think being in the military, it is a very high-pressure thing to do. It's a very high-pressure job, and it's the same with the police, where you have people who have a very strong need to fight. So let's be real, that's why they're in the military. They have a strong level of aggression, and there is a negative side of that, and you need to safeguard that. And the way to safeguard that is through recognising gender differences and having these safeguards in place.
But Jess,
I've really got to add to that. what you've said, I completely agree with it, 100%. And one thing that really, really riles me is when you've got a position in the army, just say a private gunner, and men have to carry twice as much weight and run twice as far as the women to do the same job. Everyone should have to run the same distance, carry the same weight. And if you're not able to do that, you're not able to have the job.
But do you know something?
They do that in the SAS in Paris.
It's got to be done that throughout.
There was this big debate in, in the media about who should be the next James Bond. Should it be a black, one-legged, whatever? I don't know, right? And do you know something I thought? I genuinely thought one of the coolest spies, genuine people ever, was Baroness Trumpington, right? Who basically, as an old bag, kind of Miss Marple type thing, went round the Soviet Union, like nicking stuff left, right and centre. And I thought, do you know something? James Bond is an action hero, but if you made a film about Baroness Trumpington, it'd be amazing. And I just think that, for me, she exemplified how a woman would do the spying job, and James Bond, which isn't real, exemplifies how a man would do it.
What do you mean it's not real?
But when you attempt to do the female action hero, I think you diminish the genuine contribution of women in the Secret Service, which, by the way, has basically always been about half.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the same applies to action movies as well, superhero movies. The reality is that women don't need to be physically strong to be strong. I mean, Jane Austen, for example, she's seen as a feminist icon, but if you look at the female characters in her book, they're not strong physically, they're not strong in a way a man is, they're strong in terms of the way a woman is, in terms of femininity. And I feel like modern-day feminism has abandoned that kind of femininity. They've stigmatised it and instead said that women need to be like men.
But there are so many occasions, Alistair, where actually women's skill set has made this country a great place. You look at somebody like Florence Nightingale, it wouldn't have happened if she was a bloke. If she was a bloke, she'd have just half cleaned the place.
Well, they took over the factories. All the Spitfires were made by women and flown by women, delivered by women.
I was literally going to say on that. There was a factory in Gloucester, and the ladies that worked there were called the Canaries because they worked with such harsh chemicals it literally turned their skin yellow like a canary. But really quickly, I'm going to add this. My friend's mother passed away purely for the fact that 2 women were paramedics and they couldn't carry her down the stairs. They had to wait for 2 men to come.
Same with firemen and stuff like that. But there's certain jobs where you need strength you can't have. But like, say you're a sniper or a tank driver, you don't need strength then.
No, of course, and I completely agree with you, Ash. Yeah.
So I think we've agreed on the Metro front page that this lady has been let down, but also we need to play to women's strengths, not muck about. What's the next front page?
Have we got to take a break, or are we going to the next paper then? Daily Express. No apology will ever bring our daughter back again. This is that story of a mother of Jaisley Beck, 19, demands change after soldier took her own life because the army failed to properly deal with her harassment by superiors. The fearful mother of Jaisley Beck said no apology will bring our daughter back as a coroner ruled she was failed by army chiefs. She was found hanged after one colleague harassed her with thousands of messages. Her mum, Leon, said yesterday things need to change.
That's the same story, isn't it?
Same story. Just reading that a bit more detail in the Express. And shaken and stirred, what we were just talking about, 007 franchise taken over by Amazon. Again, Jeff Bezos. He gets blamed for everything.
I tell you, before we go to the break, one thing does worry me about the military. You meet people who, and I live obviously in Windsor, that sort of area. You meet people in the military. I would love to be brave enough to do that. I'm not. I couldn't run into machine gun fire in the way that they do. But you look at them and you think to yourself, there is a reason why, Jess, there has been a huge outbreak of mental health problems. And that's because in the old days, when there was hundreds of thousands of soldiers, they might see combat once every 8 years. Our current military, they run here, there and everywhere, I mean, Keir Starmer has pledged 30,000 peacekeepers in Ukraine. The British Army's only got 70,000
They're
people.
not all fighting troops. We've only got about 10,000.
And Jess, I just worry that, and I don't want to be worried about mental health. I don't want to be that guy, but at the same time, I do worry that we are putting too much of a burden on our soldiers. So this lady, Jaisley Beck, who's died, look, she's been let down. But I just wonder whether the people who harassed her have also had too much of a stress, too much PTSD. What horrors have they seen?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's insane. You've got one side where a lot of young people are just, cradled, they're babied and don't face anything like this, don't face any kind of adversity at all. And then on the other hand, the people who want to, fight, who want to have some kind of challenge in their life, they have to be put through this. And I think it is, mental health is stigmatised as like woke thing nowadays, but I think you need to have an honest conversation about it and make sure that the people who are fighting for this country are fighting to protect this country and other countries around us. They get that support.
By the way, Jess, I believe in this mental health crisis, and I don't think it's people moaning, and I'll tell you why. Because we've given them social media, we've given them pictures of people with Lamborghinis that they believe are real.
Lockdown
We've
as well.
Lockdown, house arrest. Yeah. I think that
it's like a psyops operation, isn't it?
I think the reason young people in this country are suffering from low-level mental health is because we've done it to them.
Absolutely.
I genuinely do.
They'll use that now as an excuse to get signed off, won't they?
No, I completely agree with you. I think actually young people have been through an awful lot in a different way. Obviously, it's not fighting a war. But if you are glued to your screen all the time, I think especially, again, going back to young men, a lot of young men don't take the risk, don't take the jump and ask women out because they feel too afraid, partially because of the Me Too movement, partially because they just don't have the social skills anymore. And they're stuck in this perpetual era of just not being able to speak to women and have friends.
I watched, Alistair, I watched that, a bit of that Oscars one year. And these women are standing up going, there is a rape culture amongst men. Well, you're mates with Harvey Weinstein, not me, right? My brothers and my dad and you and Asher, there's none of that here, right? And then they go, oh, well, it's just what men are like. Can I tell you something? And I don't know if the viewers and listeners believe this or not. Our dressing rooms are there to put your bloody clothes on, not to run a party for teenagers like Jimmy Savile at the BBC. I don't accept that there's this rape culture. I don't accept that every man is a danger to women. I believe that there are some people who let them away with it and then blame you and me and my dad and my brothers for it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think that's the way society's going. It's like a blame thing. I blame this because of my mental health. I've got this gender because there's 1,000 different genders now. Everything's just a blame culture, hence what I was saying earlier with NHS, that it's just a matter of time that the transgender, the operations that people are doing, have they been assessed accordingly? No. They're going to be another claim there. And it's unfortunate, but this poor lady, in the situation she's been done, I think that's not just bullying, I think that's sexual assault and really mistreatment, and an inquest needs to be done into that for sure.
OK.
Right, the eye and, a bit of great news. Bergerac's back. Do you remember Bergerac with John Nettle, who actually moved to Jersey? He loved it so much, he bought the country and he became the king of Jersey.
Like Victor Kayam.
Damien, we had him on the show once, and I got him to do a jingle. He said, hello, I'm Victor Kayam, and when I came on the James Wales show, I loved it so much that I won a slaphead.
I love the story about Victor Kayam when he went to a UK marketing agency and he said, I've got this idea. I want to say, I liked Remington so much, I bought the company. And they went, brilliant, let's get Kevin Keegan to do it. He went, no, but Kevin Keegan didn't buy the company, it was me.
It doesn't work, he didn't buy the company, did he? Yeah, that's right. I got Max Bygraves wants to do it, and I said, oh, Max, can you just say, oh, you're listening to and he goes, it's okay, Sonny, I've been in this business for 47 years. He didn't like that. Anyway, KitKat cereal is a new low. These are better breakfasts for children. KitKat cereal, imagine that, yum, but you shouldn't have it. What should you have, muesli or grape nuts?
Sorry, have I moved to the diseased planet Zog, or is the main story about defence spending?
No, it's about the KitKat cereal. Don't have it, kids. It's for adults only. And also, a little story here. Starmer under pressure to raise defence spending to 3%. This is Donald Trump, the Oompa Loompa. He wants us to pay 5%. We pay 2%. Keir Starmer's going to say, we'll do 2.5%. But what do you think is going to happen? Because we all got to stop paying our way. Because in World War II, we ended up spending about 68% of our GDP. We would have saved money if we'd have spent more at the beginning to prevent
I think that's a good thing. I think we need to invest in spending.
Well, shouldn't we go 5% like Trump says, or is he starting like?
5%. Let's put ourselves. We weren't a world player till we had nuclear weapons. We're the laughing stock when Russia had them in the US. We only came to the table.
And we invented them here at Birmingham University, and
So
the Manhattan Project took it on.
Yeah, 5% is the way. You know, cut foreign aid, cut the low sugar content aid that's being spent in China. Oh, reduce your salt content, I think it was.
Because we need it in our KitKat cereal.
Reduce the millions and billions we could India for their space programs.
What you've just said sounded stupid, but there was a grant offered.
Very hurtful.
No,
I guess
hang on a second. Let's just examine that. A grant to a group of people who wanted to reduce the sugar and salt content for Chinese people in China.
Have you not heard about this? This was a few years back. There was a grant, I think, for
what about the Somalian Spice Girls?
What about monosodium?
Yes.
What about shrimps in Bangladesh and putting people beneath fish?
Well, hang on a second. You're looking at me saying he's joking. The Somalian Spice Girls were funded by UK aid.
And the Bangladeshi shrimps.
I mean, I'd like to have watched them.
Yeah, well, I say cut. Oh, that sounds really mean. I say cut
better.
all foreign aid. I think most of it gets diverted off to dictators and terrorist cells. Let's put that money in our spending for British soldiers.
I think it was the King of Lesotho who demanded that he have a bailout of his country. And do you know what the British minister said? Sell your Maybach. You know, this car that had cost him
Mercedes.
£600,000. Oh, he's still bowling around in that while we pay for his... You know why probably he needed the aid? Because he was a bad leader, right? You know what Africa's not short of?
Petrol as well.
Food and people, right? So I don't think you've got a problem. I genuinely believe that foreign aid is making the world a worse place.
100 billion went missing to the Ukrainians. What do you think about that? You were in on that situation. Zelensky's made a few quid with the planes. We want the planes.
I think it would have been... You're at a time of war, yeah? You're not going to give a receipt for every bit of money.
That's how they get away with it, isn't it?
Can you ever remember War Dogs? It's based on a real situation. They're literally driving around with boxes of cash to buy weapons, and that's what it's like.
That's what happened in Iraq,
like. So,
yeah, but that's not what it's like
100 million pennies. You know, you can spend
100 billion. It was.
Well, it's still not a lot of money when it comes to war. It's, you know, you can get a missile that's, I don't know, 30, 40 million. And that's like one missile.
Really?
So yeah, for sure.
It must be a bloody good missile.
Yeah, but it was.
You want it to be on target.
But no, but on a serious note, I mean, one of the things that you dealt with, which was, look, you know, everyone took stuff to the border. Everybody had all these warehouses. One of the things that you did was made sure it got to people. And actually, I thought you well, you may not have invented it, but one of the due diligence things that you did was just got your phone and filmed the people receiving the item. So you'd go, I'm here with Bob, and then you could send it back. But the reality is, you know, the level of corruption was endemic.
It was, and hence the reason when we gave aid out, I'd say, look, I'm going to film it and show you receiving the aid, because I don't want to be held. Oh, Chambers took X number of pounds worth of goods into Ukraine. Where did it go? I wanted to make obviously evidence of that. But anyway, we're sticking with good stories, not sad stories.
Hold on, before you do that, it's amazing because you're talking about the tens of millions of dollars. Now, Ukraine has really changed war, because you've got like basically a toy drones for $1,000. You can invent a missile, a guided missile that can destroy a $10 million Russian tank. It's changed the whole of warfare now to people that can just buy little 200 quid drones.
I just wonder what you're about to say now about. In fact, I'm going to say this to you, Alistair. Given that it is illegal to make military exports from the United Kingdom without a military export licence, given that, do you want to describe the drones that you've sent out to Ukraine?
Firstly, I did have a military export licence.
Oh, did you?
And it's passed off. It says underneath it goes through MI5, MI6. So I did have one. And I had them. You had to have them for level 4 body armour, which was some of the first items I took out. So yeah, so
I got some.
You were trying to stitch me up there.
No, I wasn't.
You were trying to stitch me up on live TV.
No, I wasn't.
It went back in your face.
No, I wasn't.
You in the next
in
bit.
your face, Andre.
I wasn't trying to stitch you up.
That was. What do you reckon? That was a stitch up.
Foiled again.
Can I tell you what happened to me? I had a very spirited discussion with Special Branch about DJI high definition drones going to a primary school. My line was, they're toys bought from the toy store. They were less convinced.
Who donated them? Hugh Edwards?
That's not a good joke. Okay, I'll tell you what. So hang on a second. Are we going to go to a break now?
We've got a little breaky. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to a break. Back in a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the press preview on Talk with Andre Walker, Asher Gould, Alistair Chambers and Jess Gill.
The Daily Star, our Daily Star, and King Don still mad. They're saying Donald Trump's mad. He seems to be, he just starts at a high negotiation point and works down. And the UK, scorchio with a bit of snow. Yeah, tomorrow it's going to be hot snow. It's some sort of strange... No, it's not. There's a north... Lucky gits, this is quote, lucky gits living in the south will be parading around in their budgie smugglers while poor northerners face a bit of snow. Well, we're all used to that. That's how we're used to living. How very, very British. Well, you're northern, aren't you? And you're northern. Did your skin get burnt in the southern sun?
I was honestly quite surprised how little snow the south has. I didn't realise that was a thing because my sister, for example, she lives in Yorkshire in the mountains.
It snows in the summer there.
Yeah, in the hills. And she runs her own business, and she's not been able to. It's a dog kennel.
What is she, a blacksmith or something?
she runs a very luxury dog kennels, and she's not been able to.
What's a posh dog kennel?
They
nice
have
central heating.
Cameras in, haven't they?
It's bigger than
Pock and pole kitchen.
It's bigger than my flat in London. I'll tell you that.
Well, in Yorkshire, you can afford a stately home for about 200 quid.
Those dogs live in luxury, but she's been unable to get customers to go down because the snow's been that crazy. Meanwhile, in London, you can barely feel it. Not now. This was like a month ago, but it is kind of insane.
But I mean, we used to get St Bernards with a barrel of brandy, didn't you? That you send out round.
Did
don't
they
get
really
those
send them
anymore.
out with brandy? Really?
Yeah, they have brandy round their neck to rescue people in the snow, and they've got rid of them since the cutback. So I remember that as a lad, the St Bernards with the barrels of brandy.
So is that actually true?
Yeah.
No, can you remember?
I think it's because I'm a bit older than all
I'm
of
sure you just saw them on cartoons.
No, I used to see a St Bernard with a barrel of brandy.
Let's just unpick this in terms of people concerned about snow in Yorkshire.
In the Lickey Hills,
right. Asher, are you telling me that the solution for the mountain rescue in the United Kingdom used to be to send a St Bernard's with a barrel of brandy round its neck?
It's a lifesaver. You used to get champagne on prescription at the doctors. You used to be able to get champagne. So, anyway, that's the Daily Star. But yeah, bring the St Bernard's with the barrel of brandy around. The Guardian, don't be fooled by Putin. Lammy warning as Ukraine. Don't listen to Lammy. Have you seen him on Mastermind? What's he warning about anyway? The West should not be fooled by Vladimir Putin's attempts to dress imperialism as pragmatism, says cunning Lammy.
Right. Lammy has called this imperialism. Right. He went to the UN and he talked about Vladimir Putin's interest in slavery. Right. Can I just tell you, there is one thing that the Ukraine war is not about, and that's the transatlantic slave trade.
Wow.
I think...
I beg to differ.
OK.
I'll tell you why. Can you remember he took loads of Ukrainian children?
Have they ever got those
He's
back?
only just returned them. Do you know why? He's indoctrinated them.
They're teenagers.
They've indoctrinated them, and now he's literally just put in a few thousand spies.
Oh, right, like what do you call it?
He's groomed them.
OK, I'll buy that. I'll buy that, Alistair. But when he sits there and goes, the Ukraine war is about imperialism, what he's actually doing is pushing an agenda, a fake agenda, based on what he thinks the Caribbean are interested in.
Yeah, but this way, I can't stand Lammy anyway. I think he's a complete prat, so I'll pass it on to you. I don't want to talk about him. I don't like him.
I completely agree. I think he is just a rabid ideologue with that kind of stuff.
Is that what? Sorry?
A rabid ideologue with that kind of stuff.
On top of that, he's dangerous because he's really thick. I mean, you look at his mastermind, thinking Henry VII followed Henry VIII.
I still can't believe that's real.
Marie Antoinette invented the X-ray.
What's an ideologue?
An ideologue?
It's like a catalogue.
It's like
But I think on a serious note about Lammy, he is symptomatic about the poor standards in politics. I mean, let's be clear about...
He's a symptom of it.
Let's be clear about Lammy. Lammy's a fat moron, right? Lammy's...
That's not libelous. That's literally true. It can be proven in court.
Lammy's Chip Butty at lunch has a higher IQ than David Lammy. The reason he got to Harvard is because the racist policy that Harvard had,
well, look at the president,
which discriminated against people with genuine talent in favour of anybody who could define themselves as from the Caribbean.
Right up to the top of Harvard, the woman who turned out to be a plagiariser and thick as she was a DEI appointment and unbelievable. Do you remember in all those in court at the time?
Do you know something that I would say to David Lammy if I was sat with him? I would say to him, first of all, listen carefully because I'm going to do sentences with multiple syllables. But what I'd say to him is this: you know what? This is a serious country, and this is a serious time. There is a threat to the United Kingdom of war. There's war in the Middle East, and there's all sorts of things going on. Get a grip and do your job. Do not turn up at the United Nations talking about bloody the Atlantic slave trade, which is a ludicrous proposition. He went over to the Caribbean going, we should pay reparations to you. Do your job. You know what upsets me?
Didn't he ruin a relationship with Trump recently as well?
Well, he's just a...
Well, before it started, he'd ruined it by calling him a far-right neo-Nazi.
OK, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Across the UK.
Okay. I just want to give you some breaking news now that I will deliver in a factual way. Israel has announced that Hamas has not handed over the body of the hostage, Shiri Bibas. They say instead they received the remains of an anonymous body without identification. The statement goes on to say that this was part of the prisoner exchange and Israel was willing to accept the dead bodies of some of those held hostage. Clearly, this is going to be a very serious issue tonight and in the coming days, simply because it's a violation of the agreement between Israel and Hamas. And we've been told that Israel intends to respond in a very fulsome fashion, because clearly handing over the body of a deceased citizen when it is not the person that they've claimed it to be is a serious violation. Look, I've given you this in a factual detail. Clearly, Asher is of greater knowledge on this. Asher, your view?
Well, I mean, obviously now the family are going to think, well, maybe she's alive. And what a disgusting thing. They had like a sort of party today with hundreds of Palestinians all celebrating, playing music. There were children there watching coffins of babies and a 4-year-old child being brought in. They were all celebrating, and the Red Cross were part of this charade. And disgusting. And today, actually, I saw on my Tuesday's channel, there was a vigil outside Westminster And normally, you know, some politicians might come out and join it. I mean, they literally had 3 little coffins to symbolise, well, you know, 2 bigger ones, and not one. I didn't see any politician come out and say, you know, just stand with them. It was just a vigil, a quiet vigil, and some prayers, and no one came out with any
can I ask you this question? Can I ask you this question?
This was the lowest thing I've ever seen, this sort of party celebration over these coffins.
I don't think it matters whether you're Jewish or Christian or of no faith at all. You know, I've got reservations about this deal with Hamas. And, you know, I will tell you, Asher, what I think, and you can respond. I think that the gophers have been killed. You know, the idiots that run out with a Kalashnikov who aren't the serious people. I think the leadership of Hamas remains intact.
Well, not
I think many of them, the body of them, well, you can respond, but the body of them remained in the tunnels. That's why the hostages were there. And I just worry that after all the heartache we've been through, all we've done is killed some peripheral people and 1 or 2 people at the top, but the nest has not been killed.
Well, no, they destroyed 18 battalions, and there's no way they're going to let Hamas carry on and, you know, take over Gaza. That's just not viable. So, you know, they will carry on. And I think the only thing that Netanyahu is doing is just trying to get... I mean, there was 3 blokes brought out yesterday or the day before, and they're just trying to get out. I think there's about 59 left, and they think about 30 of them are already dead. So there are still living ones. What condition they'll be in if they're like those blokes, like they look like concentration camp victims. But they're just trying to get those out, and I think then... And Hamas will know this. They'll know it will resume at some point, because they're not going to just go. Hamas aren't just going to go, right, we'll go then. Anyway, let's get back to the papers, and let's go to the Daily Mail. Don't let big tech steal UK's creative genius. I think they've already done that. We've lost a lot of all our, you know, chip providers and brains to America and China. Senior figures from the world of music, media and film last night backed a major new Daily Mail campaign to protect Britain's creative industries from the threat of AI. But they're much better. Have you ever heard of Phil Collins' robot? It's much better than the actual Phil Collins robot. But yeah, there is a worry in film actors now. You know, they can just... You don't need to hire them anymore, but presenters, they'll never be able to do that. They'll never be able to replace talk presenters. I mean, maybe some of them. I don't know, but not
do you know what I've been doing in my own business this week with my producer, experimenting with, you know, AI versions of myself.
I wondered, it did look at like Max Headroom. Do you remember Max Headroom? Looked a bit like that.
Genuinely, what we've been experimenting with, I'll just tell you straight out, is can we give AI parameters for the sort of things that Andre Walker would talk about in the way that he would talk about it? Can they go over the internet, look at it, and then deliver it? We're experimenting with it. I'm not joking. And I have to say, it's not perfect. It's relatively good, Alistair.
But are you really Andre Walker, or are you AI now?
Do you know something? I genuinely hope that
smells the sign.
I genuinely hope that we are. I hope we are a simulation.
Castrol GTX.
Do you know why I hope we're a simulation? Because if we're a simulation, then heaven can exist, God exists. Can't you?
That could be a simulation too, though.
Yeah, so God could be the guy boosting up the computer, and it means that you can go to heaven. That would be the most sensible explanation of heaven.
But the big question here is, will Hamas go to heaven?
No, of course not.
No, especially for not returning those bodies.
He's killed the mood now.
Sorry.
I will say this about AI, though. I mean, as I wouldn't say I'm creative myself, I just make videos. But I think there's a lot that goes behind production of kind of film, of music, and AI has actually helped that. So startup people who would normally need, you know, a producer, who would normally need a team, those who can't afford that can just use AI.
It happened in music, didn't it, about 30 years ago? Now at home you've got an amazing, you know,
you can just
music
use your phone
studio.
now, can't you?
Yeah, so that is happening in film now. I mean, we've seen films done on iPhones, haven't we? And they're really good, aren't they?
Yeah, but
do you remember the Blair Witch Project? That was
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, but people talk about AI, and actually, do you know what I've got at home? I've got a thing that will make thumbnails for my YouTube channel.
And you've got a cocktail maker.
And they go, it's AI. It's a bloody, you know, visual program. Oh, you can remove this with AI.
No, but you've got a virtual cocktail barman, haven't you, in your kitchen? There's cocktail barmen who are unemployed now because your machine.
Can I tell you, I pay for an AI thing to do research. Do you know what it actually does? It Googles and then reads it back to me. It's not AI, it's a Google search. Oh, AI has done this. AI is going to kill you.
I like AI, I think it's great.
Have you seen the robots that
a robot can
No,
jump.
but no one's talking about these Musk robots. I've seen them and they're amazing. They're actually, some of them are real good blokes or women.
Isn't there a conspiracy that there's like an Indian person on the other side just controlling it?
No, can I tell you? Yeah, we're going to lose. Okay, so I'll tell you something that I found with my I had an AI vacuum cleaner, and I ended up talking to it.
What?
Are they any good, those things?
Well, I'll tell you why the AI vacuum cleaner is quite good, because basically it turned on at 2 in the morning and hoovered from 2 till 5 in the morning.
Isn't that noisy, though?
Well, okay, fine.
No, they're really good. They recharge, don't they? They recharge.
So basically, it wasn't very good, but it did spend 3 hours doing it. So over 3 hours.
The effort was there.
Yeah, it was.
Do you remember like K9, the dog in Doctor Who? And then they did make that dog, Sony. Do you remember? My mate had one, and it was about $2,000, and all it could do was like, a karate kick or something. Pathetic. Emotional devastation of finding out my husband was secretly taking Viagra, and that's the golden question. If you're popping the old erectile dysfunction pills, should you tell the person? Or should you just keep it secret and go, look, I've just been working out and I'm really virile like I was 17 again? What do you think?
I will tell you, if, and ladies, I'm not being funny, but if you are over the age of 40 and your husband reminds you of what he was like when he was 20, he's taking Viagra.
And you're benefiting from it. Your benefits are stop moaning, because they see it as a
Well, they're not going to stop moaning, are they?
Well, they see it as a slur on their own performance, but it's not, because some men, when they get older, their veins and capillaries get a bit blocked up, because of all the pork pies they've had. So you got to have a bit of... it's amazing, really, when you think about men 30 years ago, they didn't have anything. And now it's just incredible. It's like being 17 again.
Is there actually stigma around taking Viagra?
Well, that's why maybe you don't tell your other half about it. This is what happened. This woman was devastated because she's seen as... Would you see... I mean, would you be devastated if suddenly, you were with someone and they, about a year in, said, I've been doing this? And would you think that was a slur of you?
I think you should be transparent with your partner, obviously, but something like this, I wouldn't say it's something that's a deal
but can I tell you something? I remember when I was 16. So I went to a football thing, right? And this bloke said to me, I can't have an 8th pint because my missus is upstairs, right? And he said, you'll know what it's like when you're 40, right? Can I tell you one thing, right? If there was no Viagra, then there would be no fun for men in terms of boozing late nights on the Friday.
That's a very good point.
Completely agree. And the thing with Viagra as well, isn't it? You've got to still enjoy it anyway for it to work.
Oh yeah.
You can't just
force it.
You can't just pop 3 pills and it's just going to work.
Anyway, look, it's early morning.
Not that I've ever taken it.
It's early in the morning. Mike Graham, he doesn't like us talking about this sort of thing. He'll be on straight after us in about 10 minutes. Anyway, the Daily Mirror dental desserts pledge. 700,000 reasons to smile. Patients in deserts will, because don't have dessert, it's bad for your dentals, isn't it? Patients in dental deserts will get hundreds of thousands of emergency appointments. An extra 700,000 people will be seen. Dentistry Minister Stephen Kinnock said, we're taking the first steps on the road to recovery for our NHS dental sector. The move comes after the Mirror campaign. I don't believe it's going to happen, is it? Not going to suddenly get loads of dentists.
I just invite you to consider the Minister for Dentistry, Stephen Kinnock. Why? Question mark.
Well, he's got to do something, hasn't he? He's Neil Kinnock's son. They've got to find something for him.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm thinking of what to say about this guy, but none of it's going to be allowed on air. So he's married to what, the former Swedish Prime Minister?
Is he?
Yeah, he doesn't. Well, I mean, apparently he lives in both countries.
Well, they did very well, didn't they? Lord and Lady Kinnock were part of the EU, weren't they? Anyway, next story on there. Will the sky fall in? Tom Bryant on Bond's uncertain future after Amazon takes control. Also, Doctor Who, I saw. It's plummeted, the ratings, because it's become so woke. You've got trans Daleks and you've got, lesbian cyber women. So, and Doctor Who's non-binary. He was apparently feeling gay twinges to Christopher Wren, apparently, in one of the things, or was
Who's
it
gay?
You made this
Darwin?
you made all of that up, surely.
Yeah, so I mean, he was a bit camp, Doctor Who, but he wasn't. You know, I don't think he was gay, and forcing it all in Doctor Who, it's ruined it, and the guy's quit. So they've got to find another one. And the madness of King Donald, Trump teaming fresh attacks on Zelensky. He's a dictator.
Do you Zelensky?
We want more money.
We want
the planes. Fantasy Island, that was a reference. You won't remember that, none of you. Starmer to offer youth visa scheme for Europe. This is so that people from Europe can just, immigrants, it makes it easier for them to come in and basically leech off the system. But, I mean, do you think this is a good thing? It's about the youth. Do you miss losing your freedom to go into Europe, Jess?
I mean, considering the UK is currently in a massive decline, it is looking promising to go somewhere like Budapest, for example, where I went, and actually it was one of the first places that I felt safe. I wasn't catcalled, sexually harassed once while I was on holiday there, and it was really nice. It was a very calm environment.
Why is that? Is there policing there, or what?
Budapest, Hungary hasn't been impacted by mass immigration.
That's right, they've blocked the borders, haven't they?
So you've had, and I think a genuine concern about the fact that mass immigration has led to an abuse of women.
Oh yeah, it definitely has. I mean, living in Tottenham, I witnessed that firsthand every single day. Honestly, the amount of people who are either just on drugs out of their mind or are saying inappropriate things, it's just a daily experience.
So you can't walk around at night, you would get harassed.
I'm 10 minutes away from the train station walking, and I still take the bus because I genuinely do not feel safe.
But even on the bus it can be, at least you've got a driver there, but it can be unsafe.
Yeah, it's not very nice. Whereas somewhere like Budapest, it's very nice. And also it's just so expensive to live in the UK as well. I still have so much loyalty to my country. I wouldn't want to live there forever, but having a bit of a break while I build myself up, I think that's fair enough. And I have a lot of friends who have moved to somewhere like Australia because it's better there, because they have a better quality of life there.
Do they? Isn't it going a bit woke and lefty there? There's a lot of problems there.
I mean, probably, I don't know.
Well, I've said this at the beginning of the show. I worry that the good people are the enemy. So most channels, let's be honest, Jess, if you said, I'm very concerned about the threats to women of uncontrolled immigration, they'd go, racist. They wouldn't say, I'm worried about what you're saying, or who follows you home, what are the circumstances. They'd go, it's your duty to pretend that doesn't happen in order to support a multicultural society.
Well, I recently had to leave my work. I had to quit my job because they had a problem with me speaking about the implications of mass immigration on women. And I worked for a women's non-profit, and they said, this is unacceptable, this is collectivism, you shouldn't group people in the same thing. It's like, well, there's clearly a pattern here, there's clearly a trend, and would you rather me ignore the mass grooming of women? And then again, I worked for a women's organisation, and they told me to stop speaking about this.
That's actually quite frightening, isn't it? They should be supporting you with your women's right being outspoken.
Yeah.
Is a good thing, though, is voicing your opinion.
They don't really believe in women's rights, the women's rights groups. I mean, look what happened with the women being raped on October. All those women's rights groups were silent.
I'll tell you what I hate about
virtue signalling.
Is 100% virtue signalling. But freedom of speech and freedom of expression is a human right. But they won't let you have that human right when you're talking against what they believe.
Exactly. They're fascists, really.
It's fascists, really, yeah, 100%.
OK, this is...
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say, you know, when you're talking about grooming gangs, the solution's very simple. Arrest them and prosecute them.
Well, I was looking into all the grooming gangs, Rotherham and Luton, etc. They actually persecuted the victims when they spoke out about it.
Well, they're the voters. I mean, we saw
shocking.
this with Jess Phillips. She won't have an inquiry because, of course, she only won by 600 votes to the Islamic party that was standing in the name of Gaza. She even promoted that she got seen ahead of the queue by a doctor because they said, oh, you voted Gaza, and she was proud about this. She should reveal who that doctor was.
By the way,
she should be struck off for that.
By the way, Asher, let's go further than what you've just said. Jess Phillips, was shouted at by a group of people who were concerned about her views on Gaza. What they wanted was a genocide in Israel, and they were angry about it. Do you know what she said afterwards? They were misogynists.
Yeah.
Oh, and what else were they? Hamas supporters, terrorists. But it was just about misogyny.
Oh, and yeah, when there was that mass sexual assault in Cologne, she goes, oh, it's just like Broad Street in Birmingham on a Saturday night. Unbelievable slander in her own city. And it's not true. It's nothing like that. Anyway, the last story, a bit of a nice story. Angie's back in the Vic. Angie, Anita Dobson, married Queen Brian May. Anita Dobson made dramatic EastEnders return as Angie Watts last night after 37 years away. The 73... I'll tell you what, Dirty Den isn't coming back. Although with AI, you never know, do you? The 75-year-old star appeared to her on-screen daughter Sharon, played by Letitia Dean.
So is that her or Brian May?
I don't know. Yeah, it's one or Brian May. Anyway, if you don't remember EastEnders, because you should have studied this in history if you're from the youth, she was like, this is when they used to get viewers of 20, I think it was one of the biggest ever, 22 million, when Den divorced Angie. She used to run the Queen Vic, and they run it very tight ship. Anyway, viewers saw Angie telling Sharon to start screaming for help, saying, "You're not giving up on us." It was like a ghostly appearance or something, as Sharon told her that she was cold. Anyway, it saves you having to watch it, doesn't it, now? You don't have to watch it. It's not been the same since Pete Beale left.
My favourite is Grant Mitchell. He only had one face, didn't he? The shocked, angry one. He wheeled that out in Afghanistan, in Colombia. I mean, he did it all over the world, didn't he?
He was very good at that face, wasn't he?
I love the way Jess is laughing and has no idea.
Yeah,
Do you not know who Phil Mitchell is? Grant Mitchell. I do a show with Grant Mitchell on a Friday. Oh no, it's James Wales.
What was the program he did? Was it Dangerous Gangs or something?
Yeah.
I love that thing when they took the mick out of him.
Gangs
I
abroad.
knew it was kicking off, so I got out of there. Well, he always used to do it.
I remember when he went into the deepest jungle in Colombia to find this real bad gang member. Anyway, he went to the meeting point in the middle of the jungle. This guy comes out in a villa top, because it was a time when Juan Pablo Angel played for Villas. It was great to see that. Toast with the most golden slices crust. This is out of cooked toast, so that's important. We'll have to save that for tomorrow, the next hour. But thanks for joining us, both of you. It was brilliant.
Oh, thank you very much. Cheers.
Brilliant, really nice.
So hang round, Alistair, not on the show, but to go to Chop Chop, the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, it's nothing dodgy. It's just chicken.
Thank you so much to Jess Gill and Alistair Chambers, and thank you. We'll be back just in a moment.
I think we've got another minute.
0344 499 1000. Oh,
Are you being professional for once? That's why I didn't realise.
It's literally...
Mike Graham's gone.
It's literally like Alan Partridge. So, if you want to follow him on...
At Virtual Ash, at Andre JP Walker. But call us now, 0344 499 1000. Get your calls, because it's just going to be your calls. We'll call you back if you're a bit tight. We'll call you back. And don't forget, you can go to Andre Walker on YouTube. See his channel, Andre Walker. It's very good. And have a look. Is it him or is it AI? See for yourself. But not now. Do it in the next...
So what we'll do now is go, ha, 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 ha. Okay, we are going to be back in a couple of moments. 0344 499 1000. I can see we've got 4 slots available, and we're going to be talking about all of the issues. Do you agree with me about Shamima Begum? Do you agree with Donald Trump over Ukraine? And get your calls in. We'll be back just in one moment.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. Well, look, I think we should just get straight to it.
Yeah.
Ken, in London, you're on Talk.
Hallelujah.
I wish you meant that, Ash, but you're just
I do, man.
One day
I'm not mocking. You've already started on me being the Antichrist. I'm not mocking anyone. I'd like a mocker.
Listen, I would just like to express my opinion about the situation with Trump and the USA. Right now, they're enforcing Europe to fully arm and to become an extremely strong, united army. They're actually forcing them by what I see in the television, reading the newspaper.
Well, they're trying for peace. It seems that Keir Starmer is trying to wind up the Europeans to do it, and they're just saying no. Trump's trying to make peace.
No, but Trump is telling them that they're now going to look after themselves.
Well, because you've got to invest to defend, you know what I mean?
Yes.
We're looking weak to Russia. We have to be strong, and then they won't try it on, and China is the big worry.
But the thing I'd like to draw our attention to tonight is this, that this could be the catalyst, the trigger to rebuild a revised Roman Empire. Actually, right now, the European Union, they're trying to revise the Roman Empire. But the Bible prophesies in the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation that there will be a most evil, dangerous empire in world history will arise just before the second coming of Jesus, and it will be a revised European empire consisting of 10 kingdoms, not 36 or whatever's in it now, 26.
This is the EU, yeah.
There's something coming to happen in the world. In the European Union, they will be revised into 10 kingdoms. And alongside those 10 kingdoms will arise the Antichrist to enforce the mark of the beast on the world. So what we see here developing, gentlemen and listeners and viewers, is possibly the catalyst to start this revival. And when you look back in history, the Roman Catholic Church popes have always wanted a revised Rome. Napoleon.
Well, isn't the Pope sort of the modern-day emperor? Because the Romans sort of transitioned into the Catholic Church, didn't they?
That's right. That's right.
So the Pope is sort of the emperor of Rome.
Correct.
It's like wordplay, like 1984, so we don't realise, but he's basically a Roman emperor. They're still running things.
This is, Ash, what we see developing here is absolutely amazing. Napoleon wanted to be a revived Roman emperor. He crowned himself the emperor.
Yeah, well, he was a very vain man. He had small man syndrome.
The German leaders, they
Macron.
called themselves the Second Reich. You know this.
Yeah. Third Reich. Third Reich, wasn't it?
History also reveals that Winston Churchill published an article called The United States of Europe. Mussolini wanted to be the leader of the new revived Roman Empire, and also did Hitler. But there is a man coming...
They all lose, though, don't they? They all lose.
There's a man coming, Ash.
Who is it?
Who will fulfill this. He will become the leader.
And who do you think that will... Where will he come from?
Nobody.
Farage?
He will come from the old... the people of the old Roman Empire.
Tice looks a bit like an emperor, doesn't he? Well, Sadiq Khan would love to be emperor, but they wouldn't let him. Sure.
Well, you know, the old Roman Empire, every nation that surrounded the Mediterranean Sea, as far back as Damascus, right into Iraq, was part of the Roman Empire. There was over 30 nations in the old Roman Empire. But there's never been a Roman Empire consisting of only 10. So there's something going to happen in the world. Maybe America will be destroyed, or a big war, and the Roman Empire will be revised in Europe. And they will become the most dangerous, evil.
And then what? And then what happens?
Ken, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You know how the Bible is the guide to everything. Why does it not include any reference to the Americas or China? Almost like the people that wrote it didn't know they existed.
It does make reference to the kings of the East in the book of Revelation.
But it's not a reference to China.
It's airy-fairy. It's not very precise.
The kings of the East will be Japan, maybe China, India.
That's not what it's referring to.
Sound like Derek Acora now.
Can I tell you something? So I believe that the Revelation is Jesus. I believe the Bible is the best effort of man to write stuff up. I think your slavish adherence to the Bible is a mistake, and I'll explain why. I think that any attempt to create a written text of the Word of God becomes inherently human and therefore cannot be the Word of God inherently. And also, I think the Bible's so riddled with mistakes, it cannot be godly.
Well, what's the mistakes?
Well, first of all, it clearly does not know about the existence of the Americas. It does not know about the existence of China. It's not a timeless classic. I mean, I don't mean to be...
Didn't predict the Second World War, the genocide of the chosen people.
I don't mean to be rude, and I don't mean to be rude, but the Quran is more badly written than the Bible, and some people will be offended by that, but the Bible is pretty badly written.
Andre and Ash, we are living in a day right now when Bible prophecy is being fulfilled right in front of our very eyes. In 1948, all in accordance with Bible prophecy, Israel was reborn again in one day. That's in Ezekiel chapter 37. The nation of
but why the slavish adherence?
It took more than one day.
But Ken, why the slavish adherence? Ken, I do let you speak. I just want to make this comment to you. You know, the prophet of Christianity, Jesus, consistently said, can you stop going on and on about the Old Testament? Stop believing it word for word. Stop taking it literally.
He was a liberal.
Andre, you're talking nonsense.
I'm not.
Jesus quoted the Old Testament.
He without sin cast the first stone. He rebuked. No, hang on, Ken. To be fair, I don't mean to be rude to you, but he rebukes the rule of stoning an adulteress on the grounds that it is ludicrous to enforce it when everybody else has committed sin. He also turns over the money-changing tables in the temple on the grounds that even though it is biblically acceptable to do that, it was also completely ludicrous. No. This man rebukes the precise obsession with the rules.
Andre, you're entitled to your opinion. But
no, hang on.
He was right about that. You shouldn't do money lending at shul.
Let me speak, Andre, please. We are living today when Israel, they have been separated from the...
No, Ken, I'm going to push you on. Ken, give me a second. No, I'm not going to let you speak. Ken, I'm going to push you. Ken, I'm going to push you on this. Ken, I'm going to push you on this. I'm going to push you on the following thing. You have come on my show, and I love you to bits. I genuinely think you're a good caller. You've come on my show multiple times to tell me that Christians should believe word for word in the Bible. I have told you, I've given examples, a couple of examples about why it's very clear to me that Jesus rebukes that view and thinks you're wrong to take that belief. And what you're going to do is repeat it back to me.
You are absolutely mistaken, and you're not a Christian because you don't believe the word of God. You might be a wee bit religious, Andre, but you're not a Christian. Let's be honest.
No, hang on a second. I understand. No, stop for a second. Stop for a second. Stop for a second. Stop for a second. I can have a theological discussion with you. I have got an understanding of the Bible. You know nothing at all about me, and you know nothing about the Bible. I made a serious theological point to you, and I asked you a question, and you responded with wank. Now, I want to ask you the question again. Why do you obsess about the Old Testament when there's clear evidence in the New Testament that Jesus rebuked people who were obsessed with it? Answer the question, knob.
Well, let me answer the question, and please allow me time to answer the question. Jesus came here to establish grace and truth. He lived the law, but he broke the power of the law over those who will believe the law of God given to Moses through God. Jesus came to establish salvation, not through the works of the law, but through believing in
And what does that actually mean? I mean, what you've just said is just garbage, isn't it?
Well, I can see that you are...
It's not. No, you've insulted me. You've sought to offend me, and you've succeeded. Congratulations, right? You've said to me, when I guarantee you my theological knowledge of Christianity blows you to pieces, and all you're going to do is just repeat the same comment. I asked you... No, hang on a second. I've been nice to you because I like you. All you have done is insulted me. I called you a knob because you're a knob. Go on.
Andre, I know Jesus Christ.
No, you know nothing about Christian theology. You know nothing about Christian theology.
You don't know Jesus.
I don't. Can I tell you? I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with you knowing nothing. Well, I'll tell you why I'm angry. I don't have a problem with you knowing nothing about Christian theology. I have a problem with you phoning my show, talking garbage about Christian theology and telling me I'm not a Christian because I don't agree with the rubbish you're talking.
See, listen, if you don't believe the Bible is the word of God,
answer the question. Why don't we return to the question?
I've answered the question.
No, you haven't. You've orally farted all over my show. Right? Give me the answer to the question. Jesus continually made the point we should not be obsessive about the precise rules of the Old Testament. I've cited evidence that I'm right. Answer the point.
Jesus came here to establish salvation.
What a load of garbage. Answer the question.
Let me answer the question, man. Why are you afraid of the truth?
Afraid of the truth? You know nothing about Christianity. Don't insult me. Don't insult me. Don't insult me about my religion. You know nothing about Christianity. Your sandwich board is a joke. Your sandwich board is a joke. I hold the Silver Order of St. Stephen. Screw you. Screw you and you're not a Christian. You're not a Christian. Do you know something? You have no knowledge of Christian theology whatsoever. The only reason I bring you on is I feel sorry for you because you're probably a bit lonely.
Why are you so angry, Andre?
Because you have sat there and it, first of all, told me I don't hold the religious faith I hold, and then cited a load of old balls to prove it.
You're not a Christian, you're a Freemason.
Well, can I tell you something? You're not a Christian either, because you've got born again. What does that mean? Explain what it means. The floor is yours. The floor is yours. Explain what that means.
Andre, let me
I'm born again because it was written in the Bible you have to be born in again. Well, what's it mean? I joined a faith called the Born Again. It was invented 100 years ago, not in the time of Jesus. I joined Jesus has told me to join an organisation I invented 100 years ago. It's garbage. You're full of garbage. You're full of garbage. Cut him off. Let's go to a break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is talk.
Yes, this is talk, and Isaac in Israel wants to phone up to say Asher doesn't know anything about Judaism. No, I'm joking.
Well, I mean, Jesus was a Jew, wasn't he? And he died a Jew, and his actual name, Yeshua, is Joshua. So why do people call him it's Joshua Christ? I mean, that was his name, Yeshua.
Honestly.
But you know that, don't you?
Of course.
Why do they call him Jesus?
Of course. Can I tell you something? I told you I was in a bad mood tonight.
Boy.
I was in a bad mood tonight. Do you know something that
was nice to see a passionate argument with Christianity. You don't see it much these days. In fact, you never see it, and it's nice to see Christianity have a bit of passion in it.
Can I tell you something? You know, Ken's presumably quite a nice bloke. I've met him a few times.
I've met him once.
But you know what? He was about 15 steps from actually defeating my theological knowledge, because I have an A level in theology. Okay, which isn't a high standard, but still defeat him. Okay.
Someone says give you a hug. Andre's upset. Please give him a hug.
Don't touch me.
He's like Kenneth Williams. Never touch Andre. The wrath of Andre.
Do you know the reason I said that? So I genuinely believe this show is all about debating ideas and whatever. If you just phone up and go, I think that you are the Antichrist. Well, okay, justify that.
I get that all the time.
I'm up for it. Justify it. I asked a serious question, and what we got was flannel. Doesn't bother me that you're a Christian, Jew, Muslim, anything like that. Just don't flannel me tonight. Grace is in London. Grace, help me out here, love.
Let's all say Grace.
Hi, I don't know if I can help. I'm afraid I missed the beginning of the conversation, so I didn't hear quite what got
probably a good thing.
You didn't
hear him call him a knob, did you?
No, I did hear that.
Glad you didn't hear that.
Well, one hears all kinds of things or sees all kinds of things online. That's fine. I just thought it was very good to hear people feeling passionately about Christianity and talking about it, because you're right, it doesn't often get spoken about. But it was a bit of a shame that there's so much acrimony, because I think we can find some points of agreement.
No, we'll call in next week and it'll all be fine.
I think Grace, my answer is this. Look, I would invite you to perform an experiment. And I've tried it myself. You know these Christians that hand out leaflets, or Muslims who do it. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a Jewish person do it. But when you find those people, if you walk up and go, I am a Christian that goes to church every week, they will tell you you are insufficiently Christian. The reason is they're standing on the street because they want to demonstrate they're better than you. Right, so Ken is a nice bloke. He's brought up his family, you know, he's paid his taxes and whatever. But his shtick is to prove that he is more religious and more Christian than everybody else. Right, so if I demonstrate my knowledge of Christianity, the first thing he'll do is rail against it, because his job, his life, his passion is proving that he's more Christian than you, and that's it.
Yeah, I didn't hear everything he said, but I've heard him elsewhere previously.
He's a nice bloke.
I don't want to make any comments about him particularly, but I think that I've seen similar things to what you're describing in some other people, and it's a bit pharisaical. It's a bit like
sanctimonious sort of thing.
Well, the Pharisees were people who wanted to prove how religious they were, and Jesus argued with them because Jesus could tell that they were kind of missing the point. And if we have a lot of pride, we have slightly missed the point of Christianity. I'm not trying to say this about Ken or anyone in particular, but the fundamental point of Christianity is that we recognize that each of us is flawed, sinful in one way or another.
So Grace, can I respond to that in this way? So first of all, you know something about Christianity. Clearly, it's between God and Ken, but let's be honest, and it is between God and Ken. You know, and I know that Ken has fundamentally misunderstood Christianity.
It sounded like that might be the case, but I don't want to try to.
It's not for me to judge. It's not for you to judge.
I don't want to cast judgment on him particularly, but I think that to overemphasize the Old Testament is a problem. Fundamentally, we believe that though we are sinful, Jesus offers each person salvation if they choose to turn to him, and each person can make that decision. And if we're worrying too much about whether other people are Christian enough, we might be missing the fact.
So can I now defend Ken? Right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why I defend Ken. Look, you know, to be fair to Ken, he's probably listening now. He is a builder. Right, so he's never claimed to be an academic in anything. He's always said that he's got his principles and he fights for his principles. I will tell you, that I do genuinely think that the world would be a better place with more people like him, simply because, you know, he's standing up for something he believes in. I don't think his knowledge of Christianity is particularly strong. In fact, I think it's quite poor. But actually, to be fair, he goes out to all these protests and he says, you know, these are our principles. These should be the principles of the country. And I sit in a world where millions and millions of people are not willing to say this country's great and so are our traditions. And to be fair, he is not amongst the group of people I'd rebuke.
I worry sometimes that, and I've not seen exactly what he does specifically, but when you talk about, for example, people standing on street corners handing out leaflets, I really need to say those people vary. Someone very close to me stands on a street corner talking about Christianity, and they're not like the stereotype that you refer to. So people doing street evangelism really do.
They're not bad. They're not bad people. And can I tell you something? You know, Ken sometimes stands outside this building, so I've personally met him. He's a really nice bloke. He's a really nice bloke. And I said to him, "Oh, you're protesting today?" He said, "No, I'm not protesting. I'm just standing here to say Jesus is great." And yeah. So look, and the fact that he's not very good on theology doesn't make him a bad person. I think the only thing I would comment on is when he says, "You're not a Christian," because I don't personally endorse the.
But that was reminding me of that's a defence mechanism. He's like a politician, Ken, and it's like Keir Starmer saying if you disagree you're far right, and then Ken saying if you disagree you don't understand the religion. It's that same thing.
Okay, so we're going to go to something.
Mike Graham's going to chat to us.
We're going to go to a competition.
It's competition time, and we're giving you a chance to win a whopping £25,000. So what do you need to do to get involved? All you have to do is text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post. It's as simple as that. Once again, to get involved, just text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post.
18 plus, UK excluding NI. Enter by SMS for £2 plus one standard network charge by 11 p.m. on March the 3rd, 2025. Or send your name, email and contact number to £25,000 cash competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on March the 6th, 2025. This is a News Broadcasting Network promotion. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
OK, Grace, any comments on the competition?
No, but we can't enter because we are employees, unfortunately. You have to get your sister or your brother to... No, you can't do it. Right, are we going to take a break or are we going to go to Georgina? We're going to go to Georgina in London. All right, Georgina?
Well, I was all right. That's the most excitement I've had in a long time, guys. Let me tell you, my hands were sweating and I dropped my phone. I'm calling in to talk about Keir Starmer with his jibe at Donald Trump. I think it's an absolute liberty that Keir Starmer had a belly dig at Donald Trump with regards to Zelensky, especially taking into account his forthcoming visit to the USA. Starmer has made it blatantly clear that he has no regard for Trump after he said, "I would not invite Trump to dinner."
Yeah, but Trump did the same thing, and I agree with Trump. When he said, Keir Starmer's coming to see you, he said, and they said, why is he coming to see you? And Trump went, well, I don't know, he just asked to see me. It was a real put-down. And outstanding with America is at 0. I think he respects the British people, and he knows, obviously, Farage and he's good friends with... But he really disrespects our government for good reason with what Lammy, and they're sending 100 people trying to not get...
Totally agree with you. But I wonder what Starmer will be having for lunch at the White House. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
I wonder if he'll have extra chicken like David Lammy.
Humble pie. Do you know something? Do you know something, Georgina? It was amazing when when Donald Trump got elected. People, not you, but people like you would phone up and they agreed with my instinct, and they kept saying, this is going to make Britain better. Well, hang on, he's the president of America. What is that all about? Do you know something? Donald Trump... so I worked with Steve Bannon when we set up Breitbart together. So I don't know Donald Trump personally, but I know Steve Bannon. These people genuinely believe that the next port of call after they make America great is to make Britain great. And can I tell you, there's no deal with Starmer, there's no deal with Lammy, there's no deal with Sturgeon, all these people. They basically believe we need to stand up for the Anglosphere, and they want rid of them.
You know, we're hoping. Well, like I said, you know, he's got no regard. He's got no regard. Starmer, I think, is on a sabotage mission, doing everything in his power to ruin the UK-America relations. That's how I feel.
I slightly disagree with that, Georgina. Can I tell you what I genuinely think? So first of all, I think Starmer is deluded. I think is the best.
At me, for God's sake. Go on.
So I don't think that Starmer's a bad person. I think he's deluded. He genuinely believes that if we create an international court ruling every country, an international law put through by the UN, enforced by an international army, then the world will be a better place. Can I tell you, that would be the worst disaster that was ever befitted.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Horrendous.
But don't you think he's a bad person for, you know, labelling all those people far right when they obviously weren't, for saying these people are going to get convicted? That was very evil, I think. Don't you think he's behaving in a very evil way?
I'll tell you what I would say about far right people. I would say that I sit in this studio and I've got a pretty good job. You know, ordinary people who work hard, pay their taxes and whatever, put me in this position, right? And to sit there and insult them, I think is nonsense. I will tell you, those blokes in Accrington, Burnley, Southport, wherever it is, you know, they go out to work every day. They pay their taxes. Yeah. Their communities.
A lot of them would have been Labour voters, not far right.
But their communities.
Shut on his own voters.
Their communities have been destroyed. And then somebody in a £10 million house says, you're very racist because you don't want your community taken over by...
And you're going to go to court and be convicted. I mean, this is a former head of the DPP.
Do you know the other thing?
Getting involved.
Georgina, I'm going to ask you to respond, but you know the other thing, Georgina, when I saw that thing in Southport, people mocked them for having no teeth, right?
Yeah.
They've been complaining for years about no NHS dentist, right? Now you can laugh at them for having no teeth, right? But sorry, one can laugh at them for having no teeth, but they've sat there for years saying, where are the dentists? Where are the doctors? Where are the decent schools? Where are all the things that we've paid for in the taxes? Of course they've got no bloody teeth because there's no dental care.
And they're at the bottom of the pile,
in one of the richest countries in the world.
The white working class at the bottom.
Can I just say about Keir Starmer, he's the type of man who will defecate on your head and then ask you to thank him for the hat. You know,
well, that has not been confirmed yet, but you know there is.
I will tell you something. I continually make this point. The barristers' chambers go, no, we work under the taxi system. We take the next customer that turns up. Absolute nonsense. I will tell you, there are a group of solicitors companies that are ambulance chasers for terrorists. If you want to Google it, it's the same. It's the same barristers representing the wrong uns all the time. The Jerry Adams, the IRA, Shamima Begum, Anjem Choudary, same names every time. The reality is there are a group of people who serve you up the following. The reason I'm making $3 million a year defending Anjem Choudary is to defend your human rights. Screw you. You're a liar. It's nonsense.
So this is all about cash is king, okay? These guys come into power, and yes, they may have a few quid when they go into power, but let me tell you, when they come out of office, they've got a lot more. Can I just finish my point, my guy?
Sure, yeah, sorry, go on.
Right. America might have broken promises to the Ukraine when they were under the Biden administration, but what everyone needs to realise now is that there's a new sheriff in town, and this sheriff actually gets results. There's no winners in war, guys, and I'm not alone in saying that mass slaughter of hundreds of thousands of people on both sides. It's totally abhorrent.
Everyone loses in war.
Yeah, absolutely right. Trump is doing everything in his power.
Do you know what I don't like, Georgina? I'll tell you what I don't like.
Go on.
You know, this goodies and baddies thing. I debated Edwina Curry this morning, and Edwina Curry said, my family are from the Donbass in Ukraine. Yes, and why did they leave? Because of the most horrendous, genocide in the history of Europe, the Holocaust.
Yeah, but not many people know that, do they?
But the very simple point is this: Vladimir Putin is a crook. So is Volodymyr Zelensky, and I'm going to give you some really great news. Almost everyone in a senior government position in former Russian Soviet republics are crooks. We do our best to try and deal with it. But the goodies and baddies, can I tell you why I do not support taking back the Donbass and Crimea? What do you think the Ukrainian army are going to do to the Russian civilians who have supported Vladimir Putin for the past 3 years? What are they going to do?
And that's the point. They are Russian speakers and Russian culture in that area.
Hand out flowers and behave nicely. The thing is, look, when we made Kosovo an independent country, and you know, maybe I agree with it, whatever. You know, the first thing they did was round up 400 Serbs and shot them as a celebration.
Collaborators.
Yeah. Now, at the end of the day, the Serbs had killed Albanians, but we sit here thinking there's goodies and baddies. Zelensky's a crook.
They're all oligarchs.
Well, let's just put it this way. Billions of pounds have been sent over for this war. And I know that America have sent ridiculous amounts of money over there. And half of it's unaccounted for.
And Zelensky apparently is now a billionaire. Now, you don't get that from being a low-rent comedian or just becoming president. He's now a billionaire. Now, that tells you everything.
Well, the interest in banks isn't that good. You know, it's just...
Yeah. No, actually, Georgina, I'll help you. I'll help you. Kolomoisky is Vladimir Zelensky's boss. He's the oligarch. He stole $5.5 billion from private bank in Ukraine. And when President Poroshenko attempted to have him arrested for it, he bought all of the media outlets and then got Volodymyr Zelensky to run for president. Volodymyr Zelensky won the election with the overwhelming support of all the media. And then what happened was this. Kolomoisky, who had stolen $5.5 billion, received immunity from prosecution, and Volodymyr Zelensky tried to imprison the previous president Poroshenko. Now, to be fair, the Ukrainian Supreme Court stopped it, and that is a step forward for a Soviet republic. But let's be clear, when people say, how did this comedian suddenly become president of Ukraine? The reason is because his boss stole $5.5 billion from the Ukrainian taxpayer and decided to dump the president, and he promotes him. Now, I'm not saying Zelensky's a bad guy. What I'm making, and by the way, Putin has invaded and attempted to genocide. But can we just not do this goodies and baddies? It's juvenile.
I'm not doing... Listen, sweetheart, I am not doing...
No, I'm not saying you. I'm just...
Goodies and baddies. But what I am saying is Trump's doing everything in his power. I know it's unconventional. He's not a conventional guy. He's a businessman, not...
Well, he was the biggest peacenik president in history. He did the least wars of anyone.
OK, Asha, Georgina, thank you. We're in trouble for not taking those calls.
Not again.
Robert is in Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire, Bob.
Yeah. How are you guys? That was a bit heated.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Don't ask about religion.
No, I'm not going to ask her. I miss Ken. I'm gutted. Was Ken on tonight?
Yeah, that's just how it all happened.
Oh, it got brutal with Ken.
He flipped out, called him a knob.
You got to give him his own spot. He's brilliant.
He was passionate, though. He was passionate. I like it.
I challenged him on theology, and he said I wasn't a Christian. It ended badly. It just ended badly. Let's move on.
What do you want to talk about, Bob?
You're a hypocrite. Andre, you're a hypocrite.
Why?
I'll tell you why. You're an atheist, aren't you?
No. Now he's going to go off on one again. Now look what you've done, Bob.
No, you're an atheist, but you're a Freemason. Now, I thought that was a bit churchy.
Now you've started.
So look, I am a Catholic Freemason, which I appreciate is
double bubble.
Yeah, it's
belt and braces.
You're not meant to be, but yeah. So I'm not an atheist.
Oh right, okay. Well, look, what I've phoned up for is a little bit of change the mood, a little bit of historical interest. Now,
go for it.
I had two conversations with you. One last week, and you told a joke that your mum said about the Fenians. Okay.
Yeah, it was good, that was.
Just to be clear, what you said, Athenians. Help me out, mate. Help me out.
Athenians.
You said Athenians, didn't you?
It was a good shop. Remember Athena? That was a shop.
A week before, I was talking about the Masonic Lodge in Clerkenwell Green.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, lovely decor.
Now, I'm believe it or not, I'm a 4 times published author. My 5th book's coming out soon. But
is this Salman Rushdie?
Sorry? No. I was doing some research. Have you ever heard of Clerkenwell Prison?
Yes.
It's still there. It's still the dungeons are still there.
In Farringdon, sort of, around there.
That's right. You got it.
What, by Smithfield Meat Market?
Yeah, just round the corner.
Just round the corner.
Just round the corner. Actual fact, Clark's Well is still there in Clerkenwell Green.
Yeah, because it was a well, wasn't it? Yeah. The River Fleet obviously rides down.
Now, Robert, I do like you, but if we're going to go street by street through Clerkenwell over the next couple of weeks, it will become tiresome by about week 8.
We're not. I just want to tell you something, just quickly. The Fenians were called the Irish.
No, look, I'm banned from. Right. Don't use that word. It's banned on the. The problem is the producers don't know what the
Athenian is all right, but don't say the other one.
Let's not do that.
Now look what you've done. Now go on anyway, Bob. So the River Fleet, it runs under the Clerkenwell Road because it became everyone was throwing their crap in it. So they covered it over. But there's a big river that goes into the Thames. Used to have ships on it.
Fagin's Den was in.
That's right, Fagin's Den, Oliver Twist and all that was based there because Charles Dickens was a journalist. Yeah, that's right.
In actual fact, Bill Sykes was a paedophile because Nancy was only 14 years of age. How about that?
Yeah, but it wasn't. I don't think that was illegal. I don't know what the rules.
Well, I mean, either way, he wasn't a good one, was he?
No, he wasn't a good one anyway. He hanged in the end, didn't he?
The dog was all right though. Bullseye.
Do you know one of my favourite films? I don't know if you've ever seen it. Mudlark. About a little. It's a 1950s film about a little boy who finds. So I mean, it's such a depressing job. Mudlark were little boys and girls who went into the mud on the Thames to find stuff that might have been dropped by some of the boats or whatever.
People still do it to this day.
Anyway, so he found a coin, and Wheeler is his name in the film, and he says, "Who is this?" And they go, "That's Queen Victoria." "Who's that?" "The grandmother of all of us." And because he has no family, he goes all the way to Windsor to try and find his grandmother. It's quite a nice film.
By the way, just in London Bridge, it's a new London Bridge, it's like 50 years old, whatever. But the steps are original, and they're actually the steps. There's a little plaque saying these are the steps that he threw Nancy down. Charles Dickens wrote about the steps. The original steps are still there.
OK, Robert, we've had enough. Thank you so much.
Educational, this show.
Tristan is in Southend. Tristan, how are you, big boy?
We've got a breaky. But anyway, we'll get Tristan, our political correspondent, after the break. Stay tuned.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, so this is the Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. I got it a bit wrong. I introduced Tristan when we were coming up to a break. So, Tristan, the floor is yours.
We're trailing ahead.
Hello, good evening. I thought you'd get into a lot of trouble if you weren't going to take that break. I was going to say, take it and come back to me. Anyway, the events with Shamima Begum and what happened with yesterday, why would people let someone like Shamima Begum back in the country?
You mean her mass parade of the coffins? Is that what you're talking about?
That is exactly where I was going with this. Yeah, 2 babies and their mother and a piece.
A baby, a toddler, an old man who was murdered, and the mother, who they now turns out it's not her body in the coffin.
Oh, you're.
And they had a party.
Mad.
They had a party around it with kids and all, like a celebration with the Red Cross. And by the way, there's been 5 explosions just south of Tel Aviv, bus bombs,
tonight,
but no one has actually been injured. So that's miraculous.
So can I ask you this question, Tristan? You've been, you and I have met each other now because you've come into the studio very kindly to help us out. But you're somebody who's just, you're somebody who just called us and we quite liked, and what you did was that for years and years and years throughout your life, you never admitted publicly you were Jewish, and then after what has happened recently, you did that. And I've always just wondered about what the thought process was, because I can tell you why I think you would do it, but why don't you tell me?
Okay, to be honest with you, there's always been this underlying anti-Semitism with some people. It's never been quite off the scale as what it's become in certain parts of the country now. But you never know how people are going to react.
Well, it's brought it out in the open, hasn't it? People you didn't realise were, this October the 7th, as Douglas Murray said, shone a spotlight and no one was hiding, no one could hide anymore. You could see people you'd known for years were saying things and you realise, oh, that's what you think.
That's it, Ash. Completely and utterly true. Some people like you and I, other than you and I, Ash, wouldn't understand. Many Jewish families keep a bag packed in their house at all times, even in Western countries.
Can I tell you something, Tristan?
These days,
Can I tell you something, Tristan? I thought anti-Semitism was a conspiracy theory. I'll tell you why. Because I'm looking at him next to me. He's just some bloke from Birmingham. Now, the fact that he practices Judaism is of no interest to me. Well, I mean, it's of casual interest. But then I saw it, people discriminating against Jewish people. My issue with anti-Semitism is I don't understand it. So, I can totally understand that you don't like one person individually. I can totally understand that you think... Judaism is hocus pocus. I'm good with all that. But this idea that somebody who is Jewish we're going to hate just for being Jewish, I don't get it.
Well, I'm as shocked as you are, which you might not believe, but I didn't realise it. When I hear about the Second World War, I hear about these times they said it could happen again, and you think, well, no, it can't. But actually, these last few years, since October the 7th, I've gone, well, this is how it happens. These are Nazis on the street on Saturday.
Yeah, if I could just say to you, you want to see anti-Semitism, go on Twitter today. I'll tell you for why. Who posted an arms embargo post on Twitter yesterday? Jeremy Corbyn around the same time.
Oh, I'll tell you why I think. So I'm confident. I'm confident that these Labour people are racist. I'll tell you why.
Oh, yeah.
Because literally, if you believe every single thing that's been said about Gaza, true, untrue, all of it, then it would still be nowhere near the biggest problem in Islam around the world. Why are they always on about Israel? It's clearly obsessive. It's clearly obsessive. Now, I would argue with you, now, forget the argument about whether there's been a genocide in Gaza. Imagine you believe it's true, right? It would still not be the biggest problem in Islam. Why are we obsessed with Israel and not obsessed with President Xi of China? What is it about Israel that constantly hankles. I think it's genuinely. Well, it's an obsession, isn't it? And that's...
Well, only them and the BNP were found to be anti-Semitic by the, the European Human Rights Commission. Only them and the BNP. I mean, that tells you everything.
Yeah, absolutely right. It tells you everything. But, I mean, Corbyn always swearing, I'm not an anti-Semite, so I've not got a problem with that in Labour Party.
But also, do you know, Tristan, let's return, and I invite you to comment on this. Let's return to the start of this show. You know something? There are loads and loads of things that we could obsess about as human rights lawyers. Well, you and I are not, but you know what I mean. Shamima Begum. You know, why is it always the wrong uns? Why can't it be, you know what I would love to sue on human rights as an example? You know, the Jewish free school, and look, I'm not Jewish, I'm not that bothered about Judaism, but it just happens to be the issue. Jewish free school has to close on the day of jihad. I think we should sue the police to open up the school and escort the kids. Rather better spend of taxpayers' money than bringing back this nightmare so she can continue to spew her bile.
And protect that teacher in Batley that's still in hiding 3 years later and will be for the rest of his life.
You wake up in the morning and you think, there's a cause I really want to support for the greatness of Britain. Oh, it's Anjem Choudary. Let's get him out of prison. Because you know what? He only supported 90% of the Islamic terror attacks in Britain. Well, give him another try. He sounds... Do you know what I think about him? I think my contract literally says we can't talk about the rope. That's what I think about Anjem Choudary.
I agree. You can't, but I can.
No, sorry, you're right, I can't. I invite you to comment now for the next minute.
OK, you'd invite me not to comment for the next minute.
No, I invite you to comment. I can't stop you.
OK, brilliant. Hanging. Absolutely bring it back, 110%.
Sorry, Tristan.
We have got to stop you.
Tristan, I'm very upset. Let me tell you how much it upsets me and hurts me that somebody on my show has phoned up to say Anjem Choudary, a man responsible for encouraging 90% of the terror attacks in Britain. One of my callers has said hang him. Oh, Tristan, you're a disgrace. I'm so furious. You won't believe it. Let's go to a break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, he used to be a very good-looking man, apparently.
Christo's the fat one. OK, I'm sorry, Alexa, go back. Oh, God. OK, so people have said to me, listen to this. I wanted to read this out. Somebody said, Andre, you are a fat posh boy. Well, at least that's an improvement from fat boy. Well, normally it's fat old man, so fat posh boy I'll go with. I honestly will.
Sounds like a Viz character.
And then somebody's messaged us to say that I WhatsApp you on a regular basis and nobody ever reads it out. Peter, it's probably because the WhatsApps are boring, but please try and improve them. Okay.
That one was a good one, though.
Let's go to Ali in West Yorkshire. Ali, you're on talk.
You all right, guys? How you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Good.
What's going on, man?
Yeah, good. It was just about the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Go for it.
Yeah, it was just when it started, I was like a big supporter of Ukraine. And I even went to like some of the marches that they had, you know, in Manchester.
Yeah.
Really did support Ukraine, like proper. And then obviously when what started out in Gaza, when that started out, and then I've just seen the double standards where people that are crying for Ukraine literally celebrating Palestinians being killed. I thought,
well, okay, Ali, can I make this point to you? I remember somebody saying this to me about the fact that we care more about Ukraine than we do about Gaza. My answer to that is Ukraine is Europe and Gaza is the Middle East. So first of all, we're always going to care about people who are closer to us.
Plus, I mean, Gaza was the aggressor like Russia was.
Well, no. You say they're from Europe or Middle East, but we're all humans at the end of the day.
Well, no, I'm not saying that, Ali. What I'm saying is I care more about the guy next to me than I do a guy in Uganda. I care more about people in England than I do about people in Scotland. I care more about people in Europe than I do about people in the Middle East. I care about more about people in the Northern Hemisphere than the Southern Hemisphere. I'm just saying that's the nature of life.
But it was a different thing anyway. It's totally different. Like I say, it was Hamas were the aggressor and Russia were the aggressor.
Well, no, because Hamas wouldn't exist if Palestinians had rights.
Right, so October, the rape and that was not an uptick in the aggression. The thousands of missiles, the 1,200 people murdered.
Jails, but you don't want to talk about that, though, do you?
The terrorists in jail, yeah.
Oh yeah, they're all terrorists, aren't they? Every single person's a terrorist. Yeah, we're to dehumanize the entire Palestinians. Yeah.
Are you saying a 9-month-old hostage is a prisoner?
No. Actually, Ali, I do want to run with this because I think you've got a legitimate point that people perhaps might disagree with. I want to ask you this question. You know, the United Kingdom does want to stop all of the trouble in the Middle East. What should we do as a country?
Well, I think you should restrict the amounts of your weapons you sell to Israel, frankly.
Which is very little. It won't make a jot of difference anyway.
And you should recognise a Palestinian state. That's what could start off with.
Okay, well, Ali, I'll tell you something that I personally think. So look, first of all, we have £40 million of exports, military exports to Israel. It's probably, and I'm not being rude here, it's probably bolts in a
We
missile.
buy more from Israel. We buy a lot of drone technology.
But the thing is, look, here's one thing that's difficult. When you say to me, and I think it's a legitimate point, we should be pushing Israel to do X, Y, Z. Israel's not necessarily the UK's ally. Jordan is. It's not really easy for us to do that, though.
Why isn't Israel an ally? I don't understand.
Well, because we opposed the creation of Israel at the United Nations in the 1940s.
I thought it was our created Balfour Declaration.
No, England and France were instrumental in
No. The Balfour Declaration is a lump of paper. We genuinely believed at the end of the Second World War that it would have been better for the Palestinians to hold the entire territory. We were overruled, right?
Churchill didn't believe that.
Well, Churchill did. Look, to suggest that Britain wanted the creation of Israel is silly. We accepted it. Our ally is Jordan in the Middle East, and Jordan's the Palestinian state.
You're right there with the Foreign Office.
Without a doubt.
I'm probably a little bit different in the regard that I don't believe all the Jews should be kicked off the land. I believe that both the Jews and Palestinians, Arabs should all live together side by side. But the Zionists, they don't believe. They think Palestinians are human, quote unquote. Human.
But they have Arabs within Israel who are high court judges and in politics.
Okay, Ali, can I tell you one thing I'm going to have to do? I genuinely do not want you to think I'm cutting you off, but I've got to run an advert right now. Honestly, I'm not joking. I think you make a reasonable point. We just didn't have time to debate it. Please phone earlier next time and don't believe I'm cutting you off. OK, I want to talk to you now about a major competition. Take it away. This is going to be epic.
Yeah.
It's competition time, and we're giving you a chance to win a whopping £25,000. So what do you need to do to get involved? All you have to do is text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post. It's as simple as that. Once again, to get involved, just text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post.
18 plus, UK excluding NI. Enter by SMS for £2 plus one standard network charge by 11 p.m. on March the 3rd, 2025. Or send your name, email and contact number to £25,000 cash competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on March the 6th, 2025. This is a News Broadcasting Network promotion. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
Honestly, I feel slightly bad about that because Ali, actually, I would have loved to have talked to him for longer, and I know it sounds like I cut him off. Craig, you've got about a minute.
Craig in Sunderland. Hi, man.
Hi. Sorry, I think last time I spoke to you, Andrea, was when Sally, our Queen, passed away, and we touched on briefly about Freemasonry, and I want to just basically touch on what you were talking about, Ken. As soon as anybody mentions Freemasonry, I think that everybody's like spits on the cross and this, that, and the other, and they don't realise how much, especially once you get through your 3 degrees, how much things open up in different religions. And you were certainly quite right about calling them knob, because in Saul's persecution of David, as we learn in one of the degrees, it was happened in the city of Nob. So Ken was...
I thought to be a Freemason, you said you had to be an athist. I thought the opposite was true. You had to believe in a one-God religion.
Yeah.
No,
even I knew that.
It embraces a lot of religions. What I'm quite surprised is, and Andre's not unique, but there's not many there's not many Catholics become Freemasons for a reason.
Well, can I tell you something else? I mean, my lodge, I've tried to recruit people from talkTV and the other place, and there are loads of people. And look, you know, if there is some person somewhere tucked away who is worshipping Satan on my behalf, I'm very sorry for that. But the reality is, I always say to people, look, it's something that works for me. It's something I enjoy.